Reveille, reveille.
Look at us now, tip to
Ooh, Jesus.
Shout out to Morning Kombat.
Do you want a margarita? Yes! My God!
Come to us, doing what we love. But it's time to bang. Oh, yeah. Hey, get fired up. Get happy. It's Monday, October 7th, 2024, and you've stumbled into here, these Manhattan Studios, Meadowlark. And how about us? Morning Kombat. Luke Thomas, Brian Campbell, your co-stesses with the most is with Body for Days on that ass.
Body for days.
She calls me on the phone. That's such a great. We were just saying in that pocket of 90s alternative rock.
People don't know.
Shimmer by Fuel can
I
slay.
believe it's a 2000 song, if I'm not mistaken.
No.
Why don't you look that
I don't
shit
think
up,
that's
Long
right. I
Island,
remember that
Luke,
song
okay?
being in when I was in
pretty
high
sure.
school.
It has a
No. I
97
remember that song being on
sound
when
to
I
it.
was in high school, and I graduated in '98.
You think it's more Nickelback era, Luke? Or
Yeah,
what?
I think it's at like 2000.
Well, you have the
literally.
I'll
internet
bet
in
you
front
$1.
of you,
I'll
okay?
bet you a single solitary $1. It's
He won't pay.
pre-2000.
He won't pay up.
All
I have it
let me
in my
check, let me
pocket.
check.
All right.
Fuck,
Hey,
it's 1996.
Hey, suck on my big fat balls. Suck on my big fat balls. How about
Main
that?
Card Minute every Saturday. Get your bong hits in. All right. Hey, we got a great show for you today. UFC 307 from Salt Lake City. Full recap coming in your face. And then we will set the stage for all things Riyadh season on Saturday. Artur Beterbiev,
I am
Dmitry Bivol.
so excited for
This
that.
light heavyweight 4-belt summit, undisputed season, 2 top 5 pound for pounders, unbeaten champions. This is, as Jack Nicholson once starred in, Luke, as good as it gets, right?
Our friends at DraftKings have that fight. How often do you hear this about a title fight main event in boxing?
Yeah.
Artur Beterbiev plus 104, Bivol minus 120.
Damn. Imagine getting plus money on
On
20-0 with 20 KOs, Artur Beterbiev.
3 world titles. He has 3 of the world
I
titles.
interviewed him. It'll be on my the Brian Campbell experience this week, Artur. And I did ask him, because I'm like, I've been butchering your name, definitely, because I've been using 3 versions.
Okay, so how do you pronounce it?
He said, because I was like, is it Beterbiev? What do we got here? He says, Beterbiev.
Beterbiev. Okay, Beterbiev. Okay,
Not
all right.
Beterbiev, not Beterbiev, not you better believe it. Beterbiev. That's what he says, okay?
All right.
Now, do you care because he's not Latino?
I
or-
do care. I do
Okay,
want to. I do like him. I want to get that
Yes,
one right.
yes.
It is tricky though. It's tricky.
Yes. Well, in Dmitry, I always say Bivol, but that's probably not right. People say, Turkey says Bivol. Well,
Does he?
yeah, Turkey pronounces things just a little bit off, but it's a language. You know, it's a,
Well, he's got an accent.
Yeah.
You have to give him. You have to grade him on a curve.
sure.
I've been saying Bivol, but then I hear a bunch of other people call him Bivol.
Yeah, I think you should just be able to say it however you.
You know what? Sanchez. How about that?
Yeah.
He's Dimitri Sanchez. To me. How
Oh,
about
I
that?
didn't know. I wasn't going to go there. I was just going to instill the Caceres rule. Just say it however you want. Be happy. And Alex
There is
says
that.
it that way.
There is that.
Yeah.
Hey, speaking of the Brian Campbell experience, a little birdie, and I actually don't know if this is true.
Oh boy.
No, I actually don't know if this is true because I asked him to I was like, "Is this true?" And he didn't respond to the email. He sent me an email. Is it true you have activated super chats on the Brian Campbell experience?
You know, I have, and I was talking to Long Island Luke about this. I don't know if I feel good about it because it feels very grifter. It feels very
I mean, it's certainly hypocritical.
here, buy these candy bars from my son for his little league team. It feels a lot like that, but the people are so nice and so genuine, and I enjoy it.
Now, how do
So,
you reconcile that with 5 years of mockery for me doing that,
and
then you just doing it later?
yeah, you know, I don't know if I'm ready to call it hypocrisy,
I mean,
or if I'm still ready to
it's
massage
many things.
it.
It is
in-
many things. Hypocrisy is one of them.
Well, I looked at it more as I'm doing this as an alternative to Uber Eats apparently, or I'm sorry, DoorDash. I'm DoorDash loyal. I'm doing it, I guess, as an alternative to there.
You got to make it worth your while.
And I guess it justifies the time in
Listen,
some ways.
Listen, I'm
know.
not mad about it. I think it.
So you're just like, if you're gonna whore out, announce to the world who you are.
I just think it's worth reflecting that I got mocked for something that you now participate in I don't know if as actively, but you certainly are an active participant in it. And I think
I'm a passive participant to this.
well, you turned them on. That's pretty active.
I mean, I hit a button, or somebody else did.
I'm just saying it's worth
Yeah,
reflecting
it
on
is.
all
It
the
is.
shit I got.
I wonder if this
given
is
you just
a
went and did it
turning
anyway.
point, or if this is a low moment, Luke. Will I, will I come back from this? I
Listen,
don't know.
it's not stealing if you're giving people the option. Tell them what the value proposition is. Be clear about it, and then if people want to support you, which I'm sure that they do it. Hey, your kids got to go to college somehow, right?
I always say, Tuki needs shoes. Somebody's got to put these kids through college. We're all in it for that, for sure. But I wonder, Luke, will I have the guts eventually to go full on Only Pipes memberships on the YouTube, where okay, come on in for all the bullshit in the storefront.
Stay for the pornography.
The real shit is what happens, offline there when you.
No, we have to save that for the MK membership.
Yes,
It's
which
just hardcore pornography.
All right, there you go. Hey, speaking of MK, I believe there's an announcement to be made today.
There certainly is.
That after all these years, we hate each other enough that this will be our final episode. Finally, freedom, yes.
That was good.
Yeah, there you go. Luke, we've teased or even threatened the idea of twice a week of doing Friday for pay, baby. I believe it's this week. We're gonna kick this off this Friday. Can you confirm that or deny it?
It is true. It is true. In fact, this Friday, which will be the 11th of October, I believe that's right. The 11th of October, MK returns to its normal schedule of now normal-ish, but of Mondays and Fridays. So Friday is an MK show live 11 a.m. in the East, right here at youtube.com/Morning Kombat. Of course, wherever you get your podcasts, we'll have it live. We'll preview, of course, this fight in more detail. We're going to kind of set you up for the week here today. But we'll do some other stuff. I think we're going to
thrilling fight night card with Royval and Tatsuya Taira.
There is that as well.
Great main event.
Yes.
The rest of that card is bollocks.
It's bollocks. However, it's also the day after the Fight Pass Invitational. Kind of interesting. Nikki Rod is back in.
Oh, you mean CJI
rotation.
champion?
CJI champ.
Yeah.
So yes, we're back. We're back on Fridays, and we're gonna stick it out on Fridays from here on out. So the
be
2 day.
Careful what you're offering. I ain't sticking that thing out on the camera.
The goalposts. The Monday Friday show. We are back this Friday. This will be a full MK week. All things being what they are.
If I was CJI and I wanted to take it to the next level, I'd hire Luke Thomas to be an analyst. That's just my.
Listen, I'm not going to turn down that check.
Okay.
I will take that check.
Okay.
I will take that check.
Okay.
I will say I don't know if I've ever told this story on the air before. I did have a promoter one time. I spoke nicely of them.
Is this the UWF in Washington?
No.
DC?
This was relatively recent. This was in the last, I want to say 2 to 3 years. I spoke nicely about them, and then all of a sudden I wake up the next day and there's a bunch of money in my Venmo account.
Oh.
And I was like, what is this from? And then I was able to trace it back. I gave the money back. I would have
kept that chat. Because it's like a super chat. I earned it. I grifted. That's my grift.
Hey, don't get in the way of my scam.
Yes, please.
No, I returned it. But I'll just say there's some thirsty people out there in the jiu-jitsu world who really want some nice coverage, apparently.
All right, there you go.
And I'll give it to them for a check, a proper check.
For a price. Go to LukeThomasSoloChannel.com. There you go. Great to have you folks here. There we go. Please like and subscribe everything we're doing. If you're looking to add a little bit of merch like this pocket t-shirt that I was showing you for a second there, or that great bomber jacket, go on over to Morning Kombat.
Winter is coming.
Store. And if you want 10% off right the hell now, use our code LIVE10, LIVE10, at morningkombat.store. Get your merch today, including the incredible crossover with Average Joe Art. I know that guy. Great guy.
He is fantastic.
Have met him.
Yes.
Well, not in person.
Not in person, actually.
Not yet
no.
in person, but he's a California man, so one day indeed. So I think the table is set here, Luke. It's ready. You ready to eat?
I just want to say one thing. Have you paid attention to what's happening in the Gulf of Mexico with this new hurricane that's coming?
Yes.
So a buddy of mine is from Tampa. He was able to ride out Helene without too much damage. And I texted him today, and I was like, are you going to stick around for this one? No, he's not. He's getting the hell out of there. So to all the folks, there's a lot of terrible things going on in the world, but for all the folks in Western North Carolina, obviously parts of it, Georgia and South Carolina as well, but now Florida, who have to bear down and take another back-to-back hurricane, certainly our thoughts are with you.
I was talking to my wife about that. I couldn't live in that stress.
It's too much. And half those homes, I'm exaggerating, but a lot of those homes don't have flood insurance or hurricane, protections.
Shout out to all you MK listeners if you're
in Florida, God help you. Hope you guys get out of there.
Bite down. Let's get through this, okay? Then we'll figure out where we're going to move after that. All right, we got to go to our topics to lead off here, and it was a big MMA weekend. UFC 307 in Salt Lake City. And say what you will about the card coming in and say what you will about the card coming out. We knew we were going to get something special in the main event because the busiest champion and one of the biggest stars in this entire sport, Alex Pereira, was back to defend his light heavyweight title. And he outslugged Khalil Rountree Jr. in a fight that I think ultimately was a lot closer than most people expected to defend the title at 307. So, Luke Thomas, Poatan breaks Ronda Rousey's promotional record by defending a title 3 times in 176 days. Wow. Does this prove once and for all, after hearing that stat, that Pereira truly is the most valuable player right now on the UFC roster?
Yes, he is. Now, there are different roles that different figures in the sport, and in particular different champions, can fill. Consider Max Holloway fought at UFC 300 and had the most exciting fight. By the way, Poatan was on that card, had a great result himself, but what you take from that is Max Holloway at 55 beating Justin Gaethje for the BMF title. He now fights Ilia Topuria at the end of this month, so he'll have been in 2 bouts of consequence. Also, you can think about Ilia Topuria. He has the fight against Volkanovski, a super important fight for the featherweight division, and now back-to-back, he's going to be fighting Max Holloway. Again, a bout of extraordinary importance for that division, but also for the Ultimate Fighting Championship, especially if Topuria wins, for future star power. So different champions can do different things, and because Poatan has been filling in on short notice, it has impacted his ability to get a proper opponent and a proper setup. Not so much for all the cards are not big because he was on 300.
Sure. Well, he was on MSG, 300, and International Fight Week, all last minute. Bang, bang, bang.
So he's on these relatively important places, but the opponents or the fights themselves, there's something a little bit missing with it.
Sure.
And this fight was really no different. Obviously, we'll talk about how Rountree rose to the occasion, but I just want to point out, guys like Topuria or Holloway will have fought less this year, but I think they're going to have been in bigger bouts ultimately by the way their calendars worked and by the way these particular matchups fell at this moment in time. But the reason why the reason why Poatan is the most valuable fighter that they have is, are his fights clearly the biggest? No. They are important. They are amazing. He is must watch in every way. But because of the late notice and because of how rapidly he's turning around, they're not giving him, and he also doesn't seem to have a clear 205 rival other than Ankalaev, but he's got to get past Rakic first, which is no easy task. But what the UFC truly values the most is, yes, star power, yes, ability, of course, those are hugely important.
Balls, dude.
Balls, all that stuff. But the ability to say yes when the call comes, when they throw the bat signal in the air, they want to see Batman. And he might be fighting crime in this neighborhood. Yep. He might be fighting crime in that neighborhood, but he answers the call. He gets the job done.
He might be on Dan Igue's couch.
He might be on Dan Igue's couch, but he delivers. He wins. He wins spectacularly. He wins in memorable ways. And he wins under, and we'll talk more about this, typically not very advantageous conditions, even if the fan base is on his side. That is so critical in this year where, remember, BC, 2024 started out great.
Sure.
298, 299, 300. This was like back to back to back, banger after banger. But it's been a bit of a drop-off since then. The guy who has kind of kept consistency to the calendar is none other than Poatan. His consistency, you mentioned 175 days. But for what he did in that 175 days, what would you remember about it? Not as much, not much at all. Poatan has saved a gigantic chunk of this calendar in ways that no one else has, even without necessarily a premium opponent.
Yeah, I think you're right. I mean, that is what the UFC would value most, your ability to be the strongest business brand for them possible and fight as quickly a turnaround in as tough of a challenge, no questions asked. But then when you deliver as emphatically, violently, entertainingly as Poatan does, then it doesn't even matter the language gap that he still, fights a battle with to some degree. He's going to become a star. Now, look, Luke, he's not Conor level, John Jones level even, but when you look at that value, he's one of their biggest brands. There's a price that comes with that, though, with the wear and tear that you're willing to put on yourself. But I think this almost makes this victory even more impressive when you find out what Poatan actually went through physically because of these short turnarounds and seemingly always being in camp. Long Island Luke, can you throw the sound of his coach explaining this?
And looking back right now, through everything that he did, say he's very proud because I don't think somebody else would have fight under those conditions. He have no camp, bro. He came here to adapt to the altitude and at the same time have his camp. So it was basically a 3-week camp, very sick, ribs are bad. He didn't want him to go to the ground. Because of those conditions, he didn't know if the rib was going to pop for real or not. So there's a lot of little things that maybe other fighters don't have. Just say, okay, I'm going to fight the next card, but we just push through, and he's very proud to have fight under these conditions and still be able to win.
Dude, he's built different. He's built
but hold
freaking
on.
different.
Let me
right
say
there.
this, though. It's amazing what he has accomplished, and like all the credit in the world to him, his team. They were wise if you're going to come out here and do it, to do it 3 weeks in advance. But I will say this, he won't do this forever. This
Takes a lot out of you to fight
this is what I mean.
and
So
be
like,
in wars.
enjoy it while he's doing it.
Yeah.
I hope everyone appreciates this. I'm not saying he'll never take another short notice fight, but this, what he did in the last 175, he won't do that again.
And he saved them, and maybe that's why they gave him this matchup rather than Ankalaev, something we debated last week. But Poatan delivers, so, boy, his star is growing, and we will get into that, and it doesn't even matter with the language barrier because he seems to be so cool anytime he does a skit or interview or anything. But, Luke, what he had to do in this fight was make real-time adjustments. Let's give Rountree a lot of credit. We'll talk more about the chin and what he was willing to go through. But he got up to a 2-0 start on the scorecards
Sure did.
against one of the pound-for-pound best in this game, and it wasn't seemingly by accident. He lowered the output of Pereira in that second round specifically and had him suddenly not chasing as aggressively and looking to land one shot rather than a barrage of them. What type of adjustments did Poatan ultimately make to be able to get on the other side of that and begin that downhill, really violent beatdown that culminated in that fourth round stop?
It's such an important question. I have a video out now. As long as UFC doesn't become copyright bullies, you can go check it out. YouTube.com/Luke Thomas.
Well, they did it on here the last 2 weeks.
Yeah, Dude, they're quick with it. But let me take this off if I may, so I can think a little more clearly. Sometimes these can be distracting.
It's like turning the radio down when you need to follow the directions and think, right?
Yes. This to me was so impressive by Poatan, in part because, as you mentioned, he was down 2 rounds. Now, I did go back and watch this fight a couple times. I don't think that the scoring is in any way off. I do think Khalil Rountree deserved to win the first 2. However, I would say this. Before that, remember he misses on the head kick and then turns around and then Rountree decks him. But for that, I think that Poatan was on his way to winning the second round. That obviously lost it because
Sure.
that was really bad.
Yep.
But it was close, but like I thought he was a little bit ahead. And then that happens.
Yeah,
and you're
Rountree
like,
won both on damage, ultimately.
Yes, that's right.
Not on
That's right.
outworking him.
But the question is, what was Poatan trying to solve for? What was he up against, and what did he have to do to get around it? And he was up against somebody who was doing these blitzes. You might recall the blitzing he was coming forward with. He was not just blitzing for long distances, but putting 3 4-punch combinations together. And he was doing it off of this galloping motion, right? You've seen Poatan kind of gallop into place, and it makes him, Jaron Ennis does the same thing, and it makes him kind of heavy on the front foot, which makes retreating more difficult. And so he would barrel in. Sometimes, by the way, Rountree was moving and then pulling him in with his movement, getting him to commit, and then these long blitzes. Remember, he would throw these long left straights that would get Poatan doing one of those numbers. So he had to get the distance right, and he had to realize this guy is moving a lot. He's blitzing a lot. Let's go back to basics. The jab was absolutely essential to this fight, to the point where Poatan simply could not have won it but for the jab.
You're right.
The low kick. And by the way, not necessarily like every shot was super hard, but being as consistent as he could with it. But for the low kick, he simply could not have won
He's so smart.
this fight.
He's
so
so
what he
freaking
did was,
smart.
if you notice, the first 2 rounds, you're getting 3 4-punch combinations as Rountree blitzes. But as the jabs begin to wear down, as the leg kicks begin to wear him down, he becomes more stationary, and the blitzing, you start to get 2-punch combinations, 1 punch all together. So in the end, what did he do? He went back to the basics. He broke the guy down so he was less mobile. He couldn't use motion to get away. In short, he became more stationary. And then the last big adjustment, BC, and you'll remember this, a lot of times what he would do is he'd have the whole octagon behind him.
Mm-hmm.
So he could do the Sean Strickland thing where you just peel out with your head way back. You can't fire back from there. But if I've got all this room to go back to, it doesn't really matter. I can just escape. Instead of doing that, What did he do? He got off at the angle. And when he got off at the angle, he didn't have to back up in a straight line. He was again, he was off to the side, but that's what opened up the right cross. And once the heavy artillery began to land, it went downhill fast.
And if you're on the verge of pouring out your gas tank, which I think in hindsight, and it was probably the right strategy for Rountree. He seemed to use a lot of energy in the first and second round trying to land those big shots.
Those are
which
long,
won him those
chasing
rounds.
him down like that.
But that's going to catch up, and it's especially going to catch up when you get rocked with a big one. And you're right. Once those right hands started to hit, the fight started to turn in the other direction. And when you're seeing Poatan going downhill, it takes a Herculean performance with the will and the chin that Rountree put himself through to even have a chance to linger. I mean, the shots he was taking from Poatan cleanly, once that sort of changed, once those adjustments were being made, I think it played into that stamina just not being there for that style as well. And you're right, when it went downhill fast. And, so you want to be an ultimate fighter is always the great Goldie refrain. Here's the picture of Rountree's face after that Dana quote tweeted to shout him out there on Instagram, whatever.
How about that booger that came out of his nose when he was talking to Rogan?
It was like brain matter. It was disgusting. and like, I talked a lot about him being number 8 and getting this over Ankalaev, and it didn't make a lot of sense, but you kind of see what the UFC was doing. And he didn't need to do this to win me over, because I've always respected Rountree and his story. And if he would have pulled the upset here, you would have been like, man, couldn't have happened to a better guy. Seriously. But damn right, dude, he won me over with this performance. It's like the willingness in his one chance, in his shot here to climb the mountain, to take what he had to and still keep coming back and resetting himself and trying. It was superhuman. It was another level.
I want to say this. I certainly don't disagree with that. I mean, Khalil Rountree, if you didn't have your respect before, I think he earned it.
Because people fall when Poatan hits him with one of those clean ones, and he's taken 4, 5, 6,
dude,
7.
How about towards the end of the fourth, he's doing guard peels? So, like, Rountree's like this, and Poatan is literally doing what's called a guard peel, where he takes the hand, rips it down, and then comes over to an unobstructed view of your face, just drilling it. And that wasn't even what dropped him. It was the knee, followed by the 2 body shots, and then the uppercut. And that finally sent him crashing to the mat. But even then, he was still conscious. But I just want to say, Khalil Rountree put on, like, we always said, BC, we both said before the fight, you go back and look at Demetrius Johnson versus Tim Elliott. This was not a guy who you thought, oh, like, that's the guy that's going to beat Demetrius. And he didn't, but he gave him a hell of a fight. Dude, these guys ranked 7 and 8. It's the biggest night of their life. You have no idea how ready they can be, and he really showed us something. But I really want to go back to a point about Poatan, if I may, which is, did Khalil Rountree have a great game plan that he executed on early? Simply no question about it, took the first 2 rounds. But once that game plan got exhausted, and you saw Poatan manage distance better, he wasn't running into things, he was getting his jab cooking, he was getting his low kick cooking, he didn't have another place to go. The game just kind of evaporated, then it fell apart. Poatan could not get his left hook going. He landed it a couple times in this fight, but was it a big factor? No. And eventually he landed the right hand, but it was barely a factor in the first 2 or 3 rounds. Barely. I love what Poatan did, because parts of his game, the head kick, by the way, on the right-hand side,
Poatan almost got ended by a head kick. Did you see how close he came in that when they slowed that down, where the kick's coming, he's leaning into it, and then he turns directions and just...
But also, like, I mean, his head kick is what I'm talking about. Like, remember, he threw it a couple of times,
vicious ones.
Rountree caught it and then circle parried and came over the top and drilled him. He could... What I'm saying is the left hook, the right high kick, many of his best weapons were taken away. But what does a championship quality guy do? He has a mastery of the basics, and we call them basic like they're easy. Simple, not easy. And he was able to go back to the jab, back to the low kick, and just break this guy down until he was more manageable, and then he turned on the afterburners.
And does he not have the right mentor in the corner in Glover Teixeira, who carved out probably the best stretch of his career at a time when we thought he was done, by going back to the basics of his grappling and jiu-jitsu and really focusing on control and trying not to be in as many absolute wars, although Glover inevitably always gets in those absolute wars. But Luke, so this guy's just different, Poatan. And I mentioned, star-wise, he's not John or Connor, but like, who the hell is? Very few in the history. Where is he on the star value list right now? I mean, I still, we did this exercise a couple weeks ago where, we talked about it on various shows when it was when it was O'Malley fighting at the Sphere. It's like, if he wins and if he knocks out Merab, could he be the biggest star in the UFC? Is Poatan no worse than number 3 on the list of biggest stars in the UFC, or do you think there's, because of that value overall, that it could pull him atop that at the moment? Because it's not like Conor's active.
So are we discounting Conor? If we're making a list, are we counting Conor?
Conor's still got to be number 1, because if he walks through that door tomorrow against anybody, it's $1.5 million pay-per-view.
All right, so
buys,
not counting him, who are the biggest stars? Poatan has to be on that list, if not number 1.
It's like John, Max.
So how much longer does he have? Poirier's a star, but
Islam without a question.
But Poatan is actively headlining pay-per-views several times in this calendar year.
So how far has it caught on with the mainstream, in your opinion?
So that's what's interesting. This is the issue that Poatan does face. For example, I can only use the traffic that I received from, let's say, UFC 306 to UFC 307. And of course, UFC 306 was a much bigger deal, if for no other reason than the venue alone was part of the story. I would say that it felt a lot bigger to me in terms of the traffic that I received at 306 versus 307, especially now, not 300. 300 was obviously gigantic.
Yeah.
But 303 was not necessarily all that big. This is the problem that Poatan faces. He's so good for the UFC because he wins. He shows up. He looks like a fucking serial killer. He's got everything that they want. He doesn't have a rival. We'll see what Ankalaev can do.
I mean, he has... His greatest rival is one of the greatest rivalries of all time. He has Adesanya
at 85.
Well, Adesanya could fight at 205. He's already done it for the title and didn't look
I'm
awful.
I'm not discounting that, but it seems like that's on ice or not in their plans. Or if Izzy said, I'm going to go to 205, I will completely.
So is your argument that he needs that rival to lift him into like being the number 1
What
star?
I'm saying is fighting Yuri is not nothing. It's a lot.
Right,
but that's not, that was on short notice, and that was like not. That was really not the best way to, like, you're not setting him up with a prime opponent like on a collision course. The Izzy one was collision course. Both of them, obviously, the 2 MMA ones. I'm saying now at 50, now at 205, you've got Ankalaev, but he still has to beat Rakic. And even if he does, he's kind of a fucking donk. Like, this is why you want to see him against a
Say it to his face, Luke.
Like, if for no other reason, this is why you want to see him against Aspinall. Do I think he can beat Aspinall? Probably not, because of the wrestling.
Right.
But at least you're giving him another A-plus quality guy.
Okay, we're going to get into in topic 2 what's next specifically for Poatan. But before we do, connected to that, I want to talk about the activity level. What you said is right. He's not going to fight 3 more times in the next 175 days.
No
it's not
chance.
going to happen. He's going to have to take some time to rest off the brutality of this fight and the injuries that he brought in on the short turnaround and just the overall grind. He is 38. But if he's scaling upwards potentially, and we'll talk about that, heavyweight is still a topic he brings up. Will that even matter? How quick should he come back, Luke, in your eyes? Knowing the UFC is going to pick up that phone value-wise and be like, hey, you ready yet? You ready yet?
I know he wants some time off, and he definitely needs it. Unless the UFC tells him there's no way we're ever going to consider using you as any kind of backup for the John Jones-Stipe fight, then he needs to take the rest of the year off. Matter of factly, like, needs to take all of October, November, and December completely. Like, you could train or whatever, but like, no camp. You're not fighting. And honestly, I would say first, second quarter. I mean, I would like to see him back first quarter 2025, second quarter at the latest, because that's what I feel. I mean, he's never going to want to be away that long anyway. It seems like I don't think he likes just sitting around. He's 38 years old. Like, he has to get to work. So I'm going to say first quarter 2025 seems like a good time.
Yeah, I mean, it's not that much time in reality, but it's for him.
But it could be. It could be if he fights, let's say, in February, late February, he would have, close to 5 months away. That's pretty good.
So they're probably not going to call him if shit goes haywire at MSG, right? They're probably not,
dude. They'll make a call to anybody if shit goes haywire.
All right, let's get to topic number 2, which is about not just what's next for Poatan, but the impact he's making with these performances in his own division. So Poatan moved into a 3rd-place tie with Daniel Cormier with 3 title defenses in light heavyweight history. It seems, Luke, like every 3 months when he returns and fights and knocks somebody big out, that we try to frame historically how to frame this impossible journey. He's not even been with the UFC 3 full years and look at everything he's accomplished. What do you think now in totality when you add the Rountree win to everything he's accomplished in this very short time since making the full-time move to MMA? How did this performance add or change the place that he's at in UFC light heavyweight history? Because when you look at the numbers and title defenses, he's making some moves in a very quick amount of time.
Can you set the context so that the folks know like what the leaderboard looks like?
So the leaderboard is like this. John Jones leads light heavyweight history with 11 title defenses. Tito Ortiz is number 2 with 5. You have Frank Shamrock and Chuck Liddell and tied for third with 4. And then at 3 now is Daniel Cormier and Alex Pereira.
Okay, so there's 2 basic things you have to decide if you want to rank this properly. One is how you want to rank era, because Frank Shamrock and Tito are obviously of a different era. They were very, very dominant for their time, but some folks are going to have difficulty ranking what somebody achieved in 2024 relative to 2004. That's going to be a problem. The second problem you're going to have to kind of reconcile is that I personally believe, and I can't exactly prove this, but I personally believe that Cormier in general beat better fighters. That's what I kind of believe.
I would agree with that.
As good as Poatan is, Cormier as light heavyweight champion beats him. We should be very clear about that. Not on the feet. I mean, I think Poatan wrecks him and just about everybody else on the feet. But Poatan, I'm not mad at him for this, but he has benefited from a historically relatively weak era of light heavyweights overall.
And it's not like they're running Ankalaev into him on purpose by accident.
Right, and also some favorable matchmaking. And I don't mind the favorable matchmaking. Like we have said, it was smart of the UFC to do it the way they've done because look at his star power. Look how it's grown. Look how much he's done for them. It all worked. Like it was exactly the right call. But when we're evaluating a resume, it's like, dude, like Ankalaev's not even that good of a wrestler, and he might boss him around. We don't know. We have to see. But like, how would prime Phil Davis do against Poatan? Dude, I hate to tell you this. Prime Davis would beat the shit out of him.
All right, beat the shit out of his
on
wrestler.
The ground, he would not.
I'm not saying he wouldn't take him down and have great success there, but to blankly say that he's going to beat the shit out of him, to get those takedowns, he's got to walk through the hammer that's coming at him.
Okay, fine. Long Island Luke, prime Phil Davis. What does he do? Prime Phil Davis. What does he do to
beat the
Poatan?
shit out of him? I mean, come on.
Yeah, I don't know. It's probably somewhat competitive.
Where on the dude? We're not like disputing on the feet. Poatan's going to smoke him. That's really not the point. We're talking about like once he gets a hold of him, what's going to happen?
It's going to take him down.
What about Cormier? What does Cormier?
Yeah, Cormier's going to take him down. I mean, that's what's going to happen.
Yeah, Cormier is going to take him down.
All right, we'll have to see how he does against Ankalaev to get a better sense of
And
things.
I'm not fighting what you're trying to say ultimately, which is he can only fight who's available to him in his era right now. They're not comparable, in our opinion, to DC, and he's not. It's not like he's knocking down the door to break the record of the title defenses anyway. I mean, It's unreachable at this moment. So I think it's still too early because he's only been in the light heavyweight division for that much. And I know that it's been a string of all current or former champions that he's walking through, but his, so much of his legacy is middleweight, just the same in this short, less than 3-year window.
Yes. The question is that you have to ask is he a top 5 all-time light heavyweight? Now, here's what's noteworthy. Couture is not on that list.
Right, a 2-time light heavyweight
Vitor
champion.
Belfort is not on that list. Vanderlei Silva is not on that list. Dan Henderson is not on that list. You have to ask yourself, what Poatan's done, as impressive as it has been, does it put him above names like that? I think uncomfortably it does put him ahead of some of these guys that we revere. I do think it puts him ahead of. Well, Dan Henderson's. I mean,
it's hard to know how much you can count for some of these guys of what they did in Pride or what they did out elsewhere.
But Dan Henderson being the middleweight and basically the light heavyweight champion, again, it was welterweight, middleweight for them, but essentially those 2 weight classes is pretty remarkable. But like in terms of what Poatan has done, like what 175-day stretch does Dan Henderson have at this weight class and this weight class alone that's as good as Poatan's? I don't know what it is.
Well, I think that's part of what makes Poatan so unique. Not just that it's hard to compare anyone having this type of success in such a short window of time, whether you're talking about the less than 3-year 2-division champion run or the 176-day 3-title defense run. I mean, just walk through these people. It's ridiculous. But Luke, I think his legacy is so unique that it has to be, his greater argument is on a totality. Like the idea of what is he going to do next, and will he ever get that chance at becoming the first 3-division champion? I think his greatest argument is going to be not in a specific division. It's kind of like BJ Penn, where, you know what I mean? Yes, he made most of his bones at lightweight, but it's always debated between the lightweight and welterweight sides of his legacy when trying to rank in just one division. It's harder when somebody's built their legacy across 2 divisions in some degree. So
yeah, and Penn did more than just those 2 divisions. He also won at 85 too.
I don't like him even at this point in this discussion because when you look at those title defense lists, he's not close, right? You got to give respect to what Ortiz did in that era and what Shamrock and Liddell
the Shamrock
did.
one is interesting for me. Like Shamrock was an unbelievable athlete, but like.
You think the pioneering element takes away from the comparing of greatness? Because
I think that, I mean, he was dealing with light heavyweight and middleweight, like when the differentiator was like 199 versus 200 pounds. Like, when it was like
and just such a different time for the game.
It's such a different time for the game. So the question I ask again, like, what 175-day stretch do they have that's as comparable as this one? Like, this is what I mean. Like, can you say Poatan has passed like a Tito Ortiz? That seems a lot. On the other hand, what he's doing already in these compact amounts of times, like how much he's putting into it, almost none of these other guys. John Jones had 4 fights in 2011, if I recall. But most of these other guys don't have anything on their resume that looks like that particular moment in time.
Well, look at this stat in terms of days as UFC light heavyweight champion. Jones obviously first over 2 reigns with 2,098 days as champion. Cormier over 1,300 days. Tito Ortiz over 1,200 days. Liddell 770 days. Shamrock 700 days. Pereira 330 days.
Jesus, and he's already on
and he's
that
already
close?
got 3 defenses. And you could argue he's headlined the last 3 most important cards, like I mentioned. International Fight Week when Conor fell out, 300 at the last minute, and then replacing Jones and Miocic in the MSG main event a year ago. Crazy, dude.
That's insane.
So he's a gamer unlike any other. It's when we talk, I mean, we have to continue to talk about what he's doing. It's incredible. But Luke, let's talk about what he could be doing next. Let's go to the quote board here. This is the quote he gave in the cage afterwards to Joe Rogan about his future. He says, "We saw that Dricus is going to be fighting Sean Strickland. He is a training partner of mine. I don't want to get in Sean's way. I can move up to heavyweight, but light heavyweight is great. I feel great with this weight cut." So Luke, he's been going on and on about going to 85 and fighting DDP. Before that, it was, I want to go to heavyweight and potentially fight John Jones or Aspinall or whoever's there. What does this tell you? That he's more comfortable now staying home, knowing that it's probably Ankalaev next. Let's continue to build what he's doing at 205.
Once you get past Ankalaev, I know Jan Blachowicz is probably still out there and wants another crack, but I don't know exactly
It was a split decision in their first fight.
Fair enough, but I don't know exactly how close he is to getting another one. I guess he could be. Also, he's getting a lot older, so his, father time stops for nobody. It's a smart call, because what he's basically saying is, first of all, I don't like Khalil Rountree is not a soft puncher, but Poatan seemed to be able to withstand the vast majority of it pretty well. The head kick, obviously, or the hook he didn't see off the failed head kick was a lot.
He also doesn't sell when he's hurt, though. You have to remember
You're
that.
right.
So,
Very good. So, but I'm saying, like, Khalil obviously can thump, and it didn't like crazy beat up Poatan, but it probably had him. It clearly, observably had him measuring himself. At 85 against DDP, I just don't like that. It's too much of a drain. We'll talk about Kayla a little bit later. So I think he and his team probably know that as well, which makes, okay, so what are our options? 205 and heavyweight. He'll go big game hunting at heavyweight if it's there. But like, you look at these guys at 205, if Ankalaev can't get past Rakic, who is the other person in this division who's going to wrestle him into the dirt right now? I mean, I'm not saying it can't be done, but there's no obvious candidate. There's no Phil Davis out there waiting to drive him this way. So it's like, why not just stick around?
What do you think about my 3-fight plan for him?
All right,
and I'm not
let's see.
saying it has to be 3 in the done, because I think at 38 he's not showing signs of slippage. So as long as he takes enough rest from the grind of these, how about this? Comes back against Ankalaev, provided Ankalaev beats Rakic. So you got to take your true style test there. You pass that one, number 3 against Adesanya to defend your light heavyweight title. Because you can kind of argue, as Adesanya played his way out of the title picture at middleweight for now, it's a lot of losses in a
Yes,
short
middleweight
period.
right now, yes.
I could see that. And then the third, you move up to heavyweight and take your swing, whoever's there. Probably going to be Aspinall, but you'll have to wait and see. What do you think about that 3-fight plan?
I don't hate it at all. I don't really know, aside from Ankalaev with a win later this month, I don't know who has some kind of mandate for a title shot. Blachowicz thinks he's got one. I'm less convinced. And so you could bring up Izzy easily. You could sell that one. You're going to give Ankalaev his shot, provided he earns it. And then you go big game hunting at heavyweight. I mean,
okay, would they?
What would be the problem?
Let's say he lost to Ankalaev. Would they do an Izzy trilogy without a title?
Well, if they needed one, sure. But it would need to be 5 rounds. So the worst case scenario would have to be some kind of co-main somewhere that they could just bump to 5.
I'd make that a payper-view main event without a title. They're just rivalry alone.
I don't think you can do
I just
that.
don't know if you'd waste that without a title and try to wait to see what happens if he gets one. I don't know. There's a lot of what ifs.
I'm with you that they could do that. I don't know that they would do that.
So I got some early offshore odds of what they think Poatan would be against other opponents.
Okay.
Plus 120 versus Ankalaev.
I can buy that.
Plus 300 versus Aspinall.
I could definitely buy that.
Plus 155 against Adesanya.
At what weight?
There's no preference on that. I don't believe in those.
At
odds.
205, I don't buy that.
Yeah, and then plus 450 against Jones.
Yeah, that's probably fair.
One name we're not mentioning in terms of who's next is former champion Jamal Hill. But Jamal Hill had this reaction in the crowd after Poatan delivered the KO. Luke, did you see it? He looks like Tyron Woodley in that.
Yeah, I
in
mean,
that
who
video.
yawns like that?
I thought he was getting after something right there.
He was doing the like you know how Anderson Silva used to he would blow a kiss by kissing his palm and then
Yes,
like throwing.
yes.
Like, you know, what's the what are those things in Alien that like they latch onto your face?
Yeah, I know exactly what you're talking
Like, don't
about.
most people do like this? Like, oh, like that. He was like trying to like.
Well, he
palm the
wasn't
basketball.
impressed by it, so this information was passed on to Poatan at the post-fight press conference.
Jamal Hill was seen yawning after the fight. Looks like he's implying that the fight was boring. I'm just curious if you can respond to that.
Tem vídeo do Jamal Hill bocejando depois da luta, como se dizendo que a luta foi chata. O que você acha?
Quem? Eu não entendi.
O Jamal Hill tem vídeo dele aqui na arena, tipo, bocejando, como se a luta fosse chata.
Tá bom. Pior que é mesmo. Acho que ele acabou de acordar do 300.
Yeah, maybe he just woke up from UFC 300.
Dude, he can't miss. Seriously. Like, you're waiting for him to be super cringe on camera one day, and he can't miss.
He just is. I mean, he couldn't have been less bothered by that.
Well, here's the response on IG in the comment section from Jamal Hill, who said, "You said that, but you will see me soon, and we will see when you wake up." The internet does not like Jamal Hill's attack here. Do you think there's any chance he gets in the sweepstakes without coming back?
I
and
think
getting
it's
a big win?
possible. He has history with them. And listen,
Yeah, but what's the history? I mean, he's trying to
they
claim
fought.
that the referee distraction led to the KO, but you rewatch the tape and that's not true.
Okay, but like, dude, squeaky wheel gets the grease. It doesn't matter. Like, he has.
Okay, what if he shows up and attacks him? That changes the equation. You show up and
big
punk him,
time,
right?
Yeah, he can do the whole Shannon the Cannon Briggs.
Yes.
Let's go, champ.
I eat where you eat, champ, okay?
He'll find him in Brazil paddleboarding, stand-up paddleboard. Dude, people get annoyed by the Jamal Hill thing. I'm fine. You can be annoyed by it, but like, he's actively trying to create a reason for you to either. He thinks he's like lobbying, I think, for a title shot. But what he's actually doing is making people hate him enough where if they book the fight, you would really want to see Jamal Hill get. I think a lot of fans would see him get like crushed again. But that's incentive for the UFC to make it. Like, he wins.
Yeah, but
he
people
wins
don't
in that
really want to
circumstance.
see that fight. I mean, can Kalaev get his chance? I mean, he's got to go through a guy who just lost by TKO 2 consecutive times.
Alexander Rakic is a big dude.
I know he can win this.
beating the shit out of Prochazka before
I'm
he
just
just kind
saying,
of
they're
gassed
making
out.
this guy run through hurdles, man. Give him his shot.
Ankalaev finds himself in this position because he has donked it up
He is a donk. Yeah,
multiple
yeah.
times. How the
All
fuck
right.
do you have a draw with 5 rounds with Blachowicz when it was your turn? Like, you could have just taken the fucking guy down and you were just out here dicking around for 3
He
rounds.
effed around and got a triple-double, I think is what happened. Hey, we got to keep going here. Let's go to topic number 3. Wow, the bantamweight division, women's side in UFC, was put on full showcase at 307 on Saturday. Julianna Pena became a 2-time champion at 135 with a very disputed split decision win over Raquel Rocky Pennington. And number 1 contender status seemed to be locked up and cemented by Kayla Harrison in her tougher-than-expected decision win against Ketlen Vieira. So, Luke, we're not going to pull any punches here, okay? You ready for this?
Okay.
What did UFC 307 in totality illustrate about the current status of the UFC women's bantamweight division?
It's sorry. Sorry. I mean, I hate to be so blunt about it. It's just not great. Listen, can we be honest?
You're not here to like come on MMA Twitter and say that like, you know, we need to shut down all the women's divisions and money will go up and let's keep the fans happy.
No, I
'Cause
don't.
I don't believe.
I
in
don't.
that.
I don't hate women.
Okay,
that's the
good,
difference.
good.
I do think that this division is not great, but I don't hate women more generally, and so I'm not encumbered by these like very difficult feelings that certain people have to reconcile. I will say this. Let me just ask a small question to you. Like, what kind of grade would you give the fight itself?
A letter of in a letter grade.
Yeah, A, B, C, D, and D minus F. What do you think?
D+.
I think it's a little strong. I'd give it a C, maybe at worst C minus.
Long Island Luke, can you
What kind of
split the
grade would
difference
you
here?
give
I
it?
said C out loud before you
Yeah, I
answered.
think that's about right. I think C's about fair. It wasn't terrible. It wasn't good, but it wasn't terrible.
I mean, it was better than the Bueno Silva Pennington vacant title
I
fight.
mean, that's not saying much.
There was like intensity and people.
I want to be fair. First of all, I thought Rocky Pennington won. I thought that she deserved to win. In real time, I've not gone back and watched it like you did, so Perhaps you'll have a different perspective. And I didn't hate the fight. But when I watched this, it did not occur to me that these were two transcendent athletes who were clearly better than the rest of their peers fighting over a very coveted prize. It's a coveted prize, and it was a fine fight, but it didn't seem superb or excellent or different or better than what you would get for run-of-the-mill contenders anyway. It was okay.
It didn't feel like elite MMA.
It did not in any way feel like elite MMA. And I think that's really the kind of problem. And of course, it was for the title. And to the point that you raised, like Rocky Pennington has kind of had these wins where she's put together, absent Saturday, like a good win streak, but a lot of them were like nickel and diming her way here. And then she loses one on the other end of nickel and diming because round one was essentially the swing round, at least the one.
It definitely was. So 2 of 3 judges gave round 1 to Pena.
Which I didn't see in real time, but I can sort of understand.
Would you agree, though, that 2 and 3 definitely Pena rounds, and then 4 and 5, you got to give Rocky credit. If you're scoring at Pride, Vision, just look at the fight. Who won it? Rocky landed the bigger shots, knocked Pena.
And also, like
Pena gassed, dude.
Like
Pena
the memorable
gassed.
offense is what? The back taking by Pena, and then the big right hand that dropped Pena by Pennington. Those are the things you really remember. And because like there wasn't like a really tight submission, or it was just good back control. It was good back control. This is sort of what I mean. It just felt like you're not watching like, it wasn't in any way must see. It wasn't better than a lot of what you see from the other peer divisions, even in women's MMA. It felt like a fight that had to happen to move the chains forward.
I know, but it's like any moment
That's
they
it.
tried to create, from the split screen with Kayla to everything, like it just kind of fell flat. Even Kayla's performance, which I want to get into, and I was impressed by it, it didn't have that minus 900 running through your screen, big finish, like finally, she's here to save the bantamweight division. I'm not really sure. But quickly on the scoring, I rewatched the first round for whatever it's worth. I don't think this is a robbery. In real time, I did score it for Pena. I rewatched it almost expecting that I would go back and score it for Pennington. And I just think, look, it's that close. Pennington had the flashier shots when you consider the right uppercut that she caught it on a perfect angle with, and she had also a big right hand. But I thought Pena landed more shots. I thought her jab was more consistent, and she did have 3 big right hands in the final 5 seconds that I think was enough to just sway slightly. Ultimately, it's a 10-10 round where not much happened. That ultimately decided the fight, though. So I think there's layers, and we'll get into the undercard and some of the debates between robberies and stuff. There's levels and layers to this. It wasn't a robbery. It was just a really close round that could have gone either way, in my opinion. Although, obviously, with your eyes, they're telling you Pennington fought the better fight overall, and she peaked in the championship rounds, which is what you want.
Definitely not a robbery. That would be totally unfair. It was close, and as a rule, if a fight is close in the 10-point must system, it can go to either person. You have to live with that, even if you sort of more clearly favor one person over the other.
Right.
But I mean, this is the thing for me. It's like, dude, why did they bring in Pena? They brought her in not because she was on a hot win streak. She hadn't fought in 2 years.
But that held her back, I thought. Gassed out in the championship rounds.
Well, more to the point, they brought her in because, yes, she has an action-oriented style for the most part, but really it's because she would sell the fight. And in fact, during fight week, she sold the rivalry with Kayla Harrison. They were kind of jibber-jabbering at the presser. She does a lot of media interviews where she goes after them. And then in the post-fight moment with Joe Rogan, where they're asking her, like, what's next? To your point with this, they had a split screen, and she calls out Amanda Nunes. There is no mandate for that third fight at all. Nobody wants to see it. Nobody was asking for it.
The first fight was affected by Amanda's lack of performance, and the right was wronged in the rematch. She won 50-43.
My point being is, if you're brought in for a purpose, which is to energize the rivalry, don't deflate the rivalry by fucking it up when it's your turn to energize
it. Even though I'm trying to tell you that there's an argument for Pena, and I scored it just by a 10-point must system round by round, it was almost the worst case scenario that she won in the manner she did, kind of fading late, and then the crowd's booing, and then they're just sort of like, we're not accepting this division necessarily, and we're not even accepting this champion. And then she doesn't even build the rivalry with Kayla. She goes into business for herself to the Nunes fight, and she's not going to be able to get that Nunes fight unless she goes through Kayla first, and that should be rightfully so. It would seem like, obviously, because Kayla versus Amanda is the much bigger fight with the bigger storyline that they would be building to. But, Luke, I didn't see enough improvement from Pena on the 2-year gap. Like, was her boxing as poor technically as it was in the Amanda rematch? No,
it was better.
She tightened
her jab
that
was
part
much
up.
better.
But I didn't see as much of a physical threat. She took her back in that one point, but it wasn't like the threat of the takedown was constantly there. It was just sort of 2 competitive people going for a title.
That is it. No more, no less.
So not only did Pena not allow the moment to try to build to the Kayla fight. This is her afterwards at the press conference, continuing the theme that she just wasn't impressed with Kayla at all.
I was, to be honest, I'll tell you, I was warming up and focusing on my own fight. But with that being said, I had my coaches there watching the fight and kind of giving me the 411 on what was going down. We're not impressed. She said she was going to put an elbow through her skull and she was going to, do all this damage. Like, the girl didn't have a scratch on her. It was boring. And she didn't do anything that, jumped off the pages like, ooh, the boogeyman, you know what I mean? So I was definitely, especially with, hearing from my team, not impressed.
So, Luke, the counter to that statement might have come from Kayla after the fight when she said, ultimately, I think Ketlen Vieira, who she had to not rally, but make adjustments and win a victory despite being swollen and cut from the damage, she said she thinks she's tougher than both Pennington or Pena in terms of a tougher opponent. After hearing what Julianna said, do you agree, or are you more impressed than you are not with how Kayla ultimately got it done in this #1 contender fight?
I actually felt like Pena's assessment of Harrison's performance was actually quite fair. I was also not super impressed.
Okay, why?
So, okay, listen. How do I say this exactly? Harrison's ground game is terrifying. It's terrifying.
Especially with elbows.
Right. She's ridiculous in that regard. So you really have to respect that, and I do. I think that's the part of her game that is electric. But I just don't think people really understand exactly how much weight she's losing. Like, people talk about the weight cut. The weight cut is actually the least of my concerns with her. It's the amount of, like, she is going to, in order to make 135 pounds, the length of the caloric deficit that she has to be in has to be fucking her up big time. I made this point to Long Island Luke before the show. Whenever she moves, not in judo, where she was 176 pounds when she competed. Understand, 40 more pounds naturally than where she is ultimately to get down to 135. When she was doing that, she was fleet of foot and quick. I mean, she wasn't like, like Tyreek Hill or something.
Right, but she's explosive.
Explosive. Here, it looks like she's moving in quicksand. Like, she almost is like one of those, you ever seen those guys on the track and they're running and they've got the parachute attached to themselves? It feels like she can barely move the way she is actually capable of moving.
So do you think it wasn't as much as Ketlen Vieira showing really good takedown defense, and maybe it was just Kayla not having that extra gear that she would normally
So I'm glad you asked that, because I think that's one part of the equation, what I've mentioned in terms of, I don't really think folks appreciate how much, not the weight cut per se,
right,
but the entire caloric deficit she has to be in.
She fought at 155 in PFL. She's fighting at 135.
And again, at judo, 176.
Yes.
I don't think folks really appreciate that.
She had one fight at 145 and made this huge leap down, and they made her go through a second hurdle of Vieira, but like, she did show toughness, calmness, poise, made the adjustments, found out the way to win the fight. But even in my white belt eyes, Luke, she's got to have more opportunities to bring the fight to the ground. It feels like she has that one entry of trying to get the trip in the clinch, and that's it. Right?
Yeah, what's kind of interesting to me about this is if you look at Khabib was interesting to me, and I know there's some folks being like, who has a better record, Khabib or Poatan? Like, who deserves like better placement on the GOAT ranking? And the answer is Khabib, although what Poatan is doing is obviously very, very impressive and special.
So you don't hold the one title defense against Khabib?
I think it's 2 title defenses, if I'm not mistaken.
Oh, you might be right. Yeah.
No, you do. You have to hold it against him. Like, he bowed out early. That's going to cost him. But Khabib was a guy who...
3. He got Connor, Justin, and Dustin. Connor, Justin.
So maybe it is 3.
Connor was to win it, though, wasn't it? Or was he already?
I don't remember anymore.
No, it was Ally Quinto to win it.
Oh,
that's right.
Cool.
But the point I want to make is, I forgot what... Oh, yes. Khabib has the ability to get those trips in the clinch, but if that doesn't work, he'll just go back to traditional single and double leg wrestling, or then mix that into body lock wrestling, and he could put all of them together. Khabib, by the way, like, why he wins over the Poatan argument is because he leveled up the game, right? The game got better. The entire game got better by virtue of what guys like him, and he was the vanguard of it, were doing. Like, Poatan hasn't had that effect on the game, and I don't think folks fully appreciate that. But what I'm trying to point out to you is, you're right. Half of it is we're just draining this dynamic athlete down to dust, and you're not getting a very good version of her, at least relative to what we know it could be. The other component is when she had that one body lock up against the cage and was kind of harassing the balance of Vieira. Like, go back and watch what I've said about Khabib. What does Khabib do when he has someone up against the fence like that? He is moving them left to right, forward and back. to get them to balance. And then from that, he can change levels. He can pick up a leg. He can do whatever he needs to do to harass them, to take them off balance. She was just kind of standing there. And again, it's like, I appreciate how much this cut is so insane. But if all you can do off a body lock, of course, it's easy for me to say, but all you can do with a body lock is kind of harass the balance. Are we supposed to rate that highly? I don't think we're supposed to rate that highly.
She didn't have a lot of success striking on the feet against Vieira.
And that's the other problem.
Vieira might have been the toughest challenge available to her in this division. It might be true.
Yeah, and again, and I'm sure she punches hard, and it's no simple thing. But like, you're almost 20 fights in. This is what I think. I think it's hard to understand how much that cut is killing her.
Sure.
Because it just looks like it's very hard for her to move in a dynamic way on the feet. And I have to believe she's getting drained to a point where she's not recognizable as an athlete.
Well, you wonder, can she do the 5 rounds championship necessity at this weight class?
If she can get the takedown, yes. If she has to stand on the feet and someone's like forcing her to engage, I don't know. I don't know how to answer that.
Early offshore odds have -700 Harrison, +500 Pena, which surprised me that it would be that big based on what we saw.
Why would that surprise you?
That suggests absolute domination. From what you saw in the 2 matchups, do you still think absolute domination for Harrison is in the cards? I think at the Pena, like Pennington, is good enough to be stubborn and to really make it a close, grinding fight if Kayla's plan A doesn't go her way. Do you believe Kayla's plan A would go her way in a matchup with Pena fairly easily?
The only thing I can say is that Pena is going to bring the fight to her in a way where Vieira was a little bit more reluctant.
Sure.
And that's going to open up opportunities. And by the way, once Kayla gets someone down, I'm not going to say it's curtains, but it's real ugly for their opponents. Like, she's on the ground, she's better than everyone else in that division, quite obviously, right? It's just that the transition and then the space before, it's like 20 fights in, you're a double gold medal winner. Like, there has to be more.
So for everything we said about this division to start this point, and maybe it's at a very low moment, but the best case scenario did happen for the promotion that these two are going to now build to the title fight, Pena versus Harrison, because they're the biggest talkers and brands. Yeah. And if we think the winner gets potentially Amanda Nunes coming out of retirement, that's not awful for a division that is pretty awful right now and going through an awful stretch.
That is the best way for it to be played. Again, I think Pena kind of shat the bed a little bit, being like, I'm going to fight Amanda Nunes. Like, okay, you're not. But I would agree. They clearly wanted to milk a little bit a Pena and Harrison rivalry. And again, I think Pena will sell the shit out of this fight when it finally happens. Kayla's gotten a lot better with it as well. But in terms of like my long-term projections for the division, it's not like I walked away from 307 being like, you know what? There's a renewed sense of life for here. I didn't get that sense
at all. There is at 125.
All.
There's not here. One more piece of business connected to this was the smart cage during 307. Thought it was smart to queue up
the smart cage.
Some highlights of Larissa Pacheco in the third meeting with Kayla Harrison that happened under the PFL banner, and she got the decision upset win. That information was shared with Dana at the post-fight press conference to give him a chance to dunk all over Don Davis and the boys. And Luke,
double D's.
He did that. Let's listen.
PFL posted a video about a few hours before her fight, kind of putting her down and using that as a way to promote their upcoming fight with Larissa. What do you think as a promoter? Do you think that's the right kind of play to go?
I think when you're losing as much money as they are, fucking go for it. Throw the kitchen sink at it. These guys, this guy just came out recently and said, we're going to spend more money than they did on the Sphere. Well, that sounds fucking brilliant. How many tickets you going to sell? Yeah, they're not very
bright. How many chigs you
So
flood?
If I were them, I would do it. Listen, it's all fair. Knock yourself out. They're drowning. They suck. I mean, they're not good at what they do. So I guess you would just keep trying anything you can to make something stick. All good.
Wow, he seemed to enjoy that session.
I mean, here's the problem. Can you really say he's wrong about any of that?
You cannot. I wish it was different. I wish I could beg the differ, Luke, but I am excited for this pay-per-view coming up with Ngannou. There's good matchups on there, but hey, we got to keep it going. Let's go to topic number 4. It's elsewhere at UFC 307, which featured a cacophony of bad judging, worse refereeing.
Can we talk about that?
Anna Carla Esparza retirement. So, Luke, I'm going to ask you, what do you think the biggest storyline is coming out of the 307 undercard? Pick whatever you want right now.
All right, so I will say this. You can complain about, I can't pronounce his name, Sejestad, the referee.
I call him local referee.
Yeah, local referee in
Yeah.
the Cesar Almeida Ihor Potieria. By the way, Ihor Potieria, is he the guy? Like, there's always one guy on the roster, and they win and lose, but they lose their balance more than anybody else. I feel like Potieria is like always has vertigo or some shit. Like, he can't stay on his feet for fucking anything.
So you're saying he's not actually always in action wars. He just can't. He has no balance. He's always falling.
Yeah, like, does he have a busted eardrum or something? Like, what's wrong with him? Also, he does have very good tattoos. I don't want his tattoos,
Yeah,
but they are
that's
very
an aggressive
they are
representation of Christ. Go
It's
for
a
it,
very
brother. Yeah.
aggressive one, but hey, it works for him. Let me say this, and credit to the MMA Draw, in particular Zach Arnold previously, or I think he still might have Fight Opinion. He has made a point for quite some time, and it's really worth taking seriously, which is, and it's not just with UFC, it's almost in sports more generally, depending on where you look, which is that who is one of the biggest customers the UFC serves?
I read that piece on the train this morning. It was
Is
really
it you
good.
and is it me? To an extent. But it is also government contracts that they
Yes.
have to serve. And that's actually who many of the...
That's when you sign with a big city for a multi-million-dollar deal, 3 events in the year.
So why were they in Utah? Why was the UFC in Utah? Were they in Utah because they have the best commission? No. Were they because they had the best fans? They had some decent fans.
Yeah,
But
I'll give
nothing
them
like super special about it. They were fine. They were good. But it was
they have
whatever.
a clean downtown in Salt Lake City.
I do like Salt Lake City. However, my point I'm trying to make is they were there because basically the government of Utah and vis-a-vis Salt Lake City and the commission there, they had essentially paid them, the tourism board, excuse me, they had paid them to be there. That's why they were
Talking
there.
about Ryan Smith.
Who?
That was part of that whole.
Oh yeah,
extended
yeah.
story.
Oh, the guy, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm trying to make a bigger argument.
Yeah.
This is why it's relevant. Why do you have dumb fuck judges and terrible referees? Because when the UFC goes to a new state, they will bring a Herb Dean or a Mark Goddard or more established referees, and then they'll also just sample the local population for what they have. Well, Utah's commission is not great. It's not a fight city.
They don't have a great history outside of those 2 big UFC cards where there were head kick knockouts.
So this is the point I'm trying to make. The UFC is in a business where they want to get maximum revenue from tourism boards in Australia, tourism entities in the Middle East, tourism boards here, even stateside. And to do that, that means they have to go to places that would ordinarily never get these fights, which means you're getting judges and referees who suck balls, who are not good at their job. And by the way, I want to say this. You are fucking up fighters' careers, and you are fucking up.
You're right.
Okay, so my point I'm trying to make here is it's nice to go and take the UFC machine to all different places. I've had enough of Utah, and if the whole point is the only reason why we're really there is because we're just maximum bidding, essentially government contracts, the people who end up suffering the most is actually not even you and me. It's the fighters who get screwed with bad judges or referees who watch 4 to 5 eye pokes and don't even give a fucking warning.
So it's unforgivable, that performance in the Potieria fight that you're talking about. I think, unfortunately, a lot of the other black eyes on this card began to all get like another moment where I don't even think all of these were actually robberies, but it all got thrown in of just another incompetence. You're right on a larger point. I don't like when you go to a new place and local referee or judge, screws the pooch. I hate that feeling. It does mess with people's careers. But like, how about specifically the Mario Bautista-Jose Aldo fight? Because I do think that the judging on that ends up getting tossed into the corruption, they're inept, when I'm not sure that actually was. Couldn't you argue that Mario Bautista just played the system of the rules of the scoring, knowing it, and strategically won the fight in the manner that he did, particularly in that 3rd round, just constantly after he had built a tiny lead in the striking early in round 3, was just content to constantly push Jose to the cage. Yes, referee would break once in a while, but he'd dive back in and do it. You can boo him, yes, but I don't think him getting a close decision win in that instance is a robbery or completely inept judging. It all goes back to the scoring system.
Okay, put the camera on me.
Please.
Here we go. Put the camera on me. This one goes out to all of the fucking idiots who, when I tried to explain in my videos that I made, we talked about on the show as well, in conversation with referee Herb Dean, I asked a very basic question, which is, what do you want MMA to look like? And the argument that I have made very consistently is, of course, there is going to be a way to do this too over the top, too aggressively, but you want somebody to not allow fighters to maintain control positions by just essentially busy work, throwing shots that don't really do anything, and no one is able to extricate them, and then the fight stalls out there. It's two of the most downvoted videos I've ever posted on my channel with a bunch of people saying, no, no, no. And now some of you have the balls to be like, Mario Bautista ruined this bout. This is the payment for everybody who said, no, I don't want a system where the referees enforce the action. Yes, the fuck you do. Look exactly what happened. This is a new era where people can use control positions with busy work to hold it. It makes fighting boring as shit, unpalatable, and nobody wants it. So for everyone who said, oh, that's not what I want, that's ridiculous, I wouldn't want that, Merab was working. No, he wasn't in parts. He was absolutely not working in that fifth round.
You have a lot of wars actively with different people.
I just want to point out, it is so fucking dishonest for people 1 week ago to say, no, Merab was working, this is ridiculous, when clearly, observably, in the fifth round was not working. Then you get somebody who beats a guy that you love and adore in a way that I agree sucked. It was not a great way. It was not a great way to win.
He knows how to win
exactly.
Close fights.
He's fighting by the fucking rules that everyone out there was like, these are the rules that we want.
Yeah.
Well, welcome to the rules that you want.
Well, I also think I don't think all the fighters can be as active as Bautista was. A big part of his game is his motor that has led to this very, very under the radar 6-fight win streak. Again, there's a risk in doing that. You're going to risk the booze of the crowd. You're going to risk getting lower placement in the card. You're going to risk pissing off Dana. But I don't think the issue here was the judges. It was the scoring system, or in your case, the referee, who could have implored even more. But
Mike Beltran did separate them.
But within the scoring system, though, as long as in this instance that Bautista thinks he's ahead on the cards, isn't what he's doing to Jose at least taxing him out and taking him away from his game? Isn't there some level of like controlling the terms of the bout in there that I get there wasn't damage, so we're not really comparing damage here. But what he's doing is also on Jose to get your ass off the cage. That's also what I got to add in there to that.
Yes, I certainly agree that Bautista did make a good point. Now, by the way, people are killing Bautista online, and I'm like, you can look at his other fights. Like he's not like a dynamic finisher, but he definitely has like an all action style. I can say that for sure. But the point I want to make was, yes, there is some blame to go on Jose, but Jose is not up against the cage because he's choosing to be. He's up against the cage because Bautista is pressing him there without advancing the fight. That's the problem. Can you look at that scenario and say reasonably that the guy who's in the control position, which is Bautista, is he working to advance the fight towards a finish? Observably, no.
Well, isn't he
Observably,
trying?
no.
But tell me if I'm wrong. Isn't he trying to take Jose down the entire time? It's just that Aldo has such great takedown defense.
Fine.
16 for 16 against Merab, that it becomes that scenario.
Fine. I'm okay with saying that he was the one trying to take him down. If after, and again, everyone's going to have a different sense of things. I'm not going to say shot clock, but after about a minute, if you can't do it, this position has fulfilled its usefulness.
So it's on the ref.
And now to me, but again, I'm not killing Mike Beltran in part because we haven't made a turn as a community in MMA to say we need to empower the referees to stop this shit.
Yeah.
And I'm saying now we need to empower the referees to stop this shit.
Local ref was stopping that shit. Local ref in the Poatier fight. If they touched each other in the clinch, he's like, let's stop. Let's get back to
So I counted. There was one time where he stopped it after 8 seconds. This is also insane. This is the other side of it where you're like, no. No one is saying because I think it was actually, you know what? Joe Rogan didn't have his best call, but he did make one point that I thought was super good about that. He was like, dude, the referee is looking at it like it's a boxing contest.
Yes.
If you clinch for 8 seconds in boxing, for sure they're going to separate you.
Yeah, no, you're right on that. Further on down that card, Luke, well, Kevin Holland popped a rim against Dolidze, and it was kind of just played into like the fights we thought were going to be bangers didn't turn out to be. But we did get what we were looking for, I thought, in Joaquin Buckley versus Wonderboy Thompson.
Yeah.
Wonderboy Thompson looks like there's no age limit here, and he's controlling the action. And then you get that late finish, that late surge. And even before Buckley landed that shot, you felt like he was getting closer and closer, and that Thompson was fighting so well, but always that close to danger. Well, that danger caught up with him. How big is this actually for Buckley? Because this is now 6 straight wins since the official cut down to welterweight.
This is the kind of fight where it's like, can he win a title? I don't know. It can't tell you that one way or the other. But like, is he now a verifiable guy who should be fighting other top contenders?
Numanza.
No question about it. That's to me what this win provided. It was the kind of proof that's like, okay, he has earned the right to fight other top guys in this division from here on out. I mean, not forever, obviously, but for the next little while, I want to see him up against number 7, number 8 ranked guys. Like, that's kind of where we're at. Maybe even higher. Where was Wonderboy ranked? I think like 6, right? Something like that.
I think he was a little closer to 10 or 11.
Where was he?
I'll look right now.
You might be right. But in any case, somewhere in that 6 to 10 range, I think is an appropriate challenge, depending on where Thompson was ranked. You know what? Now I want to see.
Now Luke's going to check it out.
Hold on, because I want. It's central to the point.
I can't wait to find these people that have been arguing you about this Bautista thing.
So they have
violate them.
Thompson was at 9
knives.
So yes, that's about right. So but here's who's at 5. 5 is Colby Covington. 6 is Sean Brady. 7 is Ian Machado Gary. 8 is Gilbert Burns. This is exactly what I mean. He should be fighting the Colbys, the Bradys, or the Garys of the world next.
Oh.
He has earned.
Buckley Gary would be something, huh?
And it would be very, very fun. Because Buckley, by the way, is very athletic, very talented, very strong, but still not quite all the way put together, I think, with his game.
There,
he's absolutely getting there. But like what I'm saying is there territory for Gary if they fought to exploit that and potentially get a win? Absolutely. And in fact, he called out Kamaru Usman, which to me is a very winnable fight for Buckley. Big name.
So he got ripped for calling out Conor. This is a great call out.
This was a much better call out. It looked like he actually learned his. This is what I mean. Things are starting to come together for Buckley in a way you cannot ignore.
He did go to our 3 Margarita show. It was after it ended, but he did show up. Okay.
He did. No, I think I saw him there.
Oh, he did?
While we were still on the air. Someone pointed him out to me, but I was too drunk to.
Yeah, you were an old manza in that moment. There's no doubt. Before we close on this undercard, I did want to give props to Carla Esparza. Do you think she got robbed against Tisha Pennington? Because it looked in Tisha's eyes like she thought she was headed toward a defeat after that late rally from the Cookie Monster.
I thought it was close. I think I had Esparza as slightly ahead.
Those rounds were close.
And that's what I say about dude, we just said it. If a fight is close, you might as well treat it like a coin flip.
Yes.
You have to accept that. And that was, I mean, I'm not going to say it was coin flippy for me, but.
Can you show the video there, Luke, of her son who was dressed like Cookie Monster? It was a nice, wholesome moment to see tears in Rogan's eyes. Was like, what'd you think about this? Because some people are like, yeah, she's a 2-division champion, but so is Pena now. Why do we get these moments? Come on, give her the moment.
Esparza to me is, the fact that she did it so far apart is a little bit different. But again, dude, I hate it because there's just so many people who hate women because they won't fuck them in MMA, you know?
Well, that's aggressive, but
it's absolutely true.
Some corner,
it's absolutely true. It's absolutely true. It's like, I'm sorry women won't fuck you, but that's a you problem. But nevertheless,
we're talking about mixed martial arts here, Luke,
hold on.
okay?
But nevertheless, dude, the fact that Pena is a 2-time champ, it does undercut. It does undercut what it means. I'm sorry, it just does.
But Esparza coming back and never giving up and having the run she had that led to the title, not her fault that Rose fought weird. And now she walks away on her own terms. I applaud her on the way out. She fought.
She had a very good career. She fought fucking hammers.
She did
the whole way through.
Joanna gave it to her in that title fight. I thought that was going to be it after that.
Yeah, dude, that's the kind of loss too that'd be that would sap your confidence.
Yes,
but she was a resilient. She came back. She obviously had some great wins after the fact. By the way, one of the women who I think was ahead of her era in terms of having good, solid wrestling fundamentals. You didn't see a lot of bullshit hip tosses from her. You saw double legs. She had good wrestling. I think that obviously was why she had such an advantage relative to some of her peers. Dude, Carla had a great career. Make no mistake about it. Was never in any drama or any stupid ass beefs.
And she just gave birth and she was back at it.
I have a lot of respect for her career, but at the same time, it's 2-time champ. I don't want to dismiss that.
All right.
But
can we have the strawweights get their moments where I come from? But Luke, what do you think about Tisha?
They get their moments, all right.
Tisha Pennington getting booed by the Salt Lake City crowd while shouting out her late grandmother and aunt for dying for breast cancer. Oh my God.
The Utah crowd ended up being pretty good in the end because when the fight was over, they waited for Khalil Rountree to speak and they gave him a big, in the end they were better, but they started out wooing like fucking low-level primates.
Look, what did you have in your Cheerios this morning? Oh, you got up at 3:30.
I did get up at 3:30 this morning. Yeah. Hey, listen,
you're in a rare mode today. It's great. Hey, let's go to before we go to topic number 5. Luke can get into this gigantic boxing match this weekend, right?
I'm so excited.
I got to tell you about Jack Pocket.
Tell me about
brother,
Jack Pocket.
Okay. You can date on your phone, of course. You can do banking on your phone. You can check out the latest news on your phone. What about ordering lottery tickets, though, on your phone? Well, that's on your phone, too, and it's easy with Jack Pocket Lottery. It lets you order your favorite state lottery games directly on your phone, Luke. Believe it.
That's right. Powerball, Mega Millions, daily games like Pick 3 and Pick 4 right at your fingertips. Jack Pocket users have already run over $500 million in prizes. BC, you can download the Jack Pocket game. That's America's #1 lottery app. New customers use the code COMBAT, that's combat with a K, for a free ticket on us. Again, that's code COMBAT, combat with a K, for your first Mega Millions or Powerball ticket free.
And if you have a gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER in New York, 1-877-8-HOPE-NY, or just text to HOPENY. 18 or older, 19 plus in Nebraska, 21 plus in Arizona, void where prohibited. Promo code required for $2 non-withdrawable credit. Look for terms at jackpocket.com/TOS/free-ticket-promo. Thank you very much. Jack Pocket. Yeah, baby. All right. Hey, Luke, we got one more topic, and it's a big one this Saturday. Riyadh season is in effect. It's a DAZN pay-per-view, but the main event will air 6 p.m. Eastern on ESPN+. It's the first 4-belt undisputed summit in light heavyweight history, and it just so happens to feature a pair of unbeaten, established, and future Hall of Fame champions, both of whom reside in the top 5 of the pound-for-pound list. Good Lord, this is as good as it gets. Artur Beterbiev versus Dmitry Bivol. Bivol with the BA strap. Beterbiev, brings the other 3. So, Luke Thomas, this is the big one, and I'm fired up. So fired up. Here we go. I got my place here. Outside of crowning that first 4-belt champion here at 175, what do you think is really at stake in this battle of unbeatens come Saturday?
Oh, Jesus. That's a really tough question. I mean, as you mentioned, you've got 2 pound-for-pound guys. This is a full-on unification, right? In terms of this is every single title at light heavyweight, 175 pounds. As you mentioned, 2 undefeated records. Again, you go through the odds, it was minus or plus 100 in either direction.
Yeah, Beterbiev, currently the underdog on DraftKings, which is just wild. You've never been in this spot.
Well, because he was supposed to fight earlier this year, and then he fell out of that contest with a meniscus tear.
And
so he had a surgery on his knee, and he's nearly 40 years old. Meanwhile, Bivol took on a guy, I forget his name, he was no good, and he wiped the floor with him. But like I go back to Tank taking the Hector Garcia fight before the Ryan Garcia fight, and I think that tune-up really helped him. So in the end, I understand why the odds are where they are. I think it's quite reasonable. I will just say this. This is one of those fights where Paulie Malignaggi was talking about this. Like, if we're going to pay attention to all the crap, you have to make time for the best. This is the best of what boxing has to offer. It is all the titles, one face, one man in a important weight class, given who is there. By the way, who's like the 3rd or 4th best guy in this division? Nobody even cares because it's 1 and 2 by a million miles. It's arguably the most important fight of the year. It's arguably one of the best fights that can be made, irrespective of weight class this year or any year, frankly, in boxing. And it's an important style contrast. It's important for either guy's career. I don't know if there's a grander narrative. Certainly you can tell me.
No, I mean, the fact that they're both so established as well. It's like maybe Mayweather versus Pacquiao, they were too established. They were 38 and 36 years old, right? So it's like it was too late. At least we still got 1 versus 2 pound for pound. This, on my list on CBSSports.com, is number 4, Beterbiev versus number 5, Bivol. And Luke, I mean, Beterbiev is 20-0 with 20 knockouts. Although he hasn't talked about whether this has the potential to be his last fight, that hasn't been a piece of conversation. Could you imagine if he did knock out Bivol to go 21-0 with 21 KOs and then was like, check you later, accomplished everything I was here to do? It would be one of those Habib-like, Andre Ward-like resumes where it's like, could you have done it any more perfect than that? No. How do you put this in historical terms? It's going to be hard to figure out. Not that that's necessarily where he's headed, but it shows you that they're so far established where if they didn't end up fighting each other, they'd probably still go in the Hall of Fame. Yet we get to find out the supremacy, not just right now in the light heavyweight division in their respective eras, but Luke, the idea that we're already in like this historically awesomely unique pound for pound era where right now you've got 3 guys with a like legitimate claim, right? Inoue, Bud Crawford, Alexander Usyk. You can make the claim for either 3 and we have to go, you know what? You're probably right. It's your opinion. What if the winner here, and there's no rematch clause according to Eddie Hearn, the promoter of Bivol, by the way, what if the winner here does it solidly, spectacularly, convincingly? How are we not going to put them in consideration for the number 1 pick pound for pound overall?
Especially if it's Beterbiev.
Right, exactly.
And he gets, to your point, he gets the finish. You're finishing off another pound for pound guy to unify.
The guy that was the fighter of the year 2 years ago when he ran through Canelo and Zurdo Ramirez.
Yeah, and to get all the titles in the weight class, I mean, that is such a, I mean, again, no one else on that pound for pound list would be able to say such a thing. Now, granted, they might have more good wins than what Beterbiev has. But this one win in conjunction with all of the other stoppages such that happens, this is insanely unique. This is a 100% KO rate through other pound-for-pound guys. Holy shit,
And
folks.
if you're talking about, like, there's no rematch clause, who knows where the winner would go. But if they're 1-2 in this division, just to remind you, David Benavidez is number 3, David Morrell Jr. is number 4, Joshua Buatsi is number 5, and Canelo wants the winner if it's Bivol. So, like, this is not just one fight that we finally got and we all swim out to the island and enjoy it. This could, trigger and continue a run here at 175. Let's go to the face-off from the kickoff introductory press conference, and you can finally see them together and look at all of the hardware around them.
Are we going to talk about Bivol's ex-wife?
Dude, she is just going ham on social media.
Her accusation, take her for what it's worth, her accusation is that he's a deadbeat dad.
Yes, and that he, like, broke her phone and pushed her.
Doesn't pay child support and all kinds of shit. So
she's putting out, like, his injury history of
the
late.
issue is this. Beterbiev is tight with Ramzan Kadyrov. Now, he probably has to be because he's Chechen. I know he lives in Canada, but, he's tight with him. So, that part's not great. You don't get a lot of heroes in combat sports. But as a fight, and by the way, I'll tell you what I love. Can I tell you what I love about this fight?
Please.
Again, odds are close. 1 versus 2. Both undefeated.
We'll give
all
our
the
picks
titles
on Friday's MK show, by the way.
What I also love, which is not exactly what you asked, like what the stakes are. I love the style contrast.
Yes.
Bivol, master boxer, just phenomenal footwork, phenomenal use of space.
Fluid style, in and out.
And it keeps good range. And then you have Beterbiev, who is a fucking Terminator. And by the way, has been dropped before.
Yes.
Gotten off the canvas and then polished that dude off.
He's looked as human, I think, as he ever has post-pandemic, because he took 2 years off for the pandemic. He came back against, I think it was Adam Denis, and he didn't look great, but he repaired that in the next few fights, but he's looked a little bit human, whether it was
I didn't think the Yard fight was that bad.
Anthony Yard at times, against Callum Smith, even it was close before, but he always will outlast you with his technique and then put you away with that power late.
Chris Algieri was talking about this. He's like, if you had to ask me, like, is Bivol going to win rounds against this guy? It seems like inevitable. He'll win rounds.
Sure.
He might win enough of them. But he's like, dude, you just look. He said the first time he saw him in person and how every, like, sinew of muscle and tissue just looked primed for fighting. And, like, you ever watch all the kettlebell stuff he does with his wrist and hands and everything? And, like, how he does push-ups on boards that, like,
He's
to
strong
string his
as
knuckle.
shit.
He was saying, he's like, dude, 12 rounds is a lot of time to spend with that guy. To me, the most exciting part of this is the best part of that fight will be at the end.
Yes.
And when Beterbiev is finally in a groove, what is Bivol going to do then? And the answer is he might win.
When the opponent slows down just a bit,
he is
the
terrifying.
power catches up with them. That's what I was going to ask you. Like, is it ideal that this is happening when Beterbiev is 39? No, it's not ideal. This fight did get pushed off a little bit. You can make the argument that this fight does not happen without Turki Al-Sheikh and Saudi Arabia. So we can say what we say about them, but this was a fight that Turkey circled early on, wanted to make, committed to making. There were injury delays. There was all that. We're finally getting it. But Luke, I think in recent history, at very least, we're still getting a Beterbiev that can win this, no question. And we're getting him as a slight betting underdog, which is wild. So could not be more fired up for this. 6 p.m. Eastern time is the expected main event.
Can you tell the
start time
folks
Saturday.
how the card works?
Yeah, the full pay-per-view is available on DAZN.
I think it's free now.
Dan
Raphael reported over the weekend. So the main event was always free.
Yeah, the main event, there was always a contractual tie that Bob Arum got for
Yeah.
ESPN Plus to air the main event.
I think now in the U.S., I'm not sure if this is true in the U.K. or anywhere else, I believe that now the main card is also free if you're a DAZN subscriber.
It's a decent undercard. It doesn't have Shakur Stevenson like it originally planned to, but
Who cared about that
decent.
fight against Cordina? Really? Who gives a shit?
There were things we needed to learn in that fight. It didn't happen. What have you? Whatever. We'll get more into this fight as the week progresses, but get fired up if you're the kind of MMA fan that does trust us when we tell you about these big boxing ones.
This is the big one.
This is one of those.
This is the
and I
big
was going
one.
to say, Luke, I think it really fits. It's not as commercially wanted or longed for, because look, these guys have language barriers, even though they both have committed to speaking English, and they are gentlemen and sportsmen. They're not out there trying to sell themselves in ways that they're going to become household names. But from the standpoint of like critical and stakes, this is up there, in my opinion, with Mayweather Pacquiao, Andre Ward versus
Usyk
Sergey
Fury.
Kovalev when they were 1-2. Usyk Fury recently. Spence Crawford.
Yes.
I think it's on that level of the stakes, the value of the fighters, their historical value, everything. This is a big one, so don't miss that one this weekend.
Oh, by the way, we're going to do a preview on Friday.
Yes.
Gun to your head right now, you have the right to change your opinion. Gun to your head, who wins?
You know, this is what I love about this fight because it's so good. I had been Bivol for months, and I think I'm back on Artur.
See, I just switched.
I think I'm back.
I was on Artur. Let me be clear.
You're transitioning.
Let me be clear. I want Artur to win because I like his style better, even though I really like Bivol's style. But just 100% KO rate. I'm never going to cheer against someone who's got 100% KO rate. But the fact that he is 39 coming off of knee surgery and he's been inactive and Bivol is younger and has been active, it's like, I think if it goes to the scorecards, Bivol will win. I'll say that.
That's a fair assessment.
but
But save a little for Friday.
But I have to say, like, I can't wait to see what rounds 9 through 12 look like.
Yeah, I'm going to crush a lot of tape this week and get fired up for that. Those are your 5 topics of the week. Thank you for ingesting them. But before you see my fecal variety, we have a segment where we answer the questions from you, the donkers. You send us questions on social media on Sunday nights at X and Instagram at Morning Combat.
Is it X? Is it?
And we respond to them here. And if they're not good questions, Luke will definitely make fun of you. This one's called DMs from Dogs.
By the way, I have to tell you this. So somebody, where did I see this? I can't remember. Somebody wrote me a note being like, I hope you guys understand that like donkeys are fucking awesome. And the braying is just a communication style of these like very splendid, like they were like, not exactly bitter, but they felt like they had to correct the record. And I want to be clear that like, I don't care if donkeys live or die. You know what I'm saying?
I was going to say being bitter and correcting the record. That sounds like Luke Thomas to me.
Yeah, but like in this particular case, it's just about a subject matter. I just can't.
Yes,
I just can't care.
Yeah.
Can't
Well,
care.
the first donker here, his handle, Dookie McPoopy Stink.
I mean,
Luke.
why did we pick this? I mean, who picked this fucking shit?
Is
All right.
Alex Pereira? So, by the way, Anek's dropping a Pedeta regularly, and he's the pronunciation guy.
Okay, but listen.
Or is he rolling the R into a D where I'm going straight
He might
D?
be like
I'm
rolling the
sitting
R
on
because
D.
the way it was explained, again, by a Brazilian person, the way it was explained to me was there's no D in there at all, no nothing. But you have to flick the tongue on
I
the
don't
re.
flick.
Pereira.
Sorry, it sounds very kind of linguistic of you. Okay. Hey, he wants to know, is Alex on the Mount Rushmore of the most powerful punchers in MMA history? That would have to include Mark Hunt, correct?
Shane Carwin.
Hell yeah.
Derek Lewis.
Dan Henderson with the damn H-bomb.
The H-bomb is up there. Long Island Luke, come to the microphone, please. Heaviest punchers in MMA history. Who do you think?
I'm going smaller weight classes. He just fought this weekend. John Lineker.
Yes.
Lineker's
You'll
up
see
there.
him in my shit.
Lineker is just fucking. He is such a great fit for that 4-ounce Muay Thai shit that they do sometimes.
Would you put Rampage in that or no?
He was a dynamic puncher, but not one of the biggest ones in history.
Chuck Liddell.
I mean, Rampage beat him.
Derek
twice.
Lewis.
Derek Lewis we already added.
Oh, sorry.
Jessica Andrade.
On the women's side, yeah, definitely a Liz Carmouche was a dynamic puncher for a while.
Oh, no, she wasn't.
Chris Cyborg.
Cyborg,
Yeah,
Cyborg.
thank you for that one. And Amanda Nunes got it. Okay, there
Amanda
we go.
Nunes. Hold on, there's got to be one more we're not thinking of.
On the men's side, who's just Melvin Manhuff.
Rumble.
Anthony Johnson.
Oh God, R.I.P.
Dynamic puncher, yes.
Wow, there you go. There you have it. Okay, thank you.
And yes,
Dookie
Poatan's on that list.
Mick. So he's on the Mount Rushmore officially.
Is he top 4 power
I mean,
punchers? No.
He might be, dude. He just touches people and they go away.
He touched Khalil a lot. Like, who did Julian Jackson beat up like Poatan beat up Khalil that they survived?
You're right. They didn't get to that point.
Like, Julian Jackson would touch you and it would just, you're just done.
Hey, let's go to Levi.Brink. He says 4 eye pokes and 1 groin strike with no official warning.
Yeah.
I know this has been talked about ad nauseum, but shouldn't there be an established baseline of an enforcement point deduction? 4 should be more than reasonable. We've talked about this before, Luke. I think the answer is 1 warning at the first foul of all fouls.
Yep.
And then you take a point from there on out. But you can always argue, what if it's such a light foul? What if it's like a tapping nut shot and then the next one is like a, eye poke that wasn't deep? Big effing deal. You got to set that baseline that you got to control your weapons. You can't be reckless from here on out or it's a problem.
I could tolerate a rule that by 3rd, you have to take a point. I could tolerate a rule.
Oh, so you're going to give him 2 strikes.
I'm saying I could tolerate that. Like, if they made that the baseline, I wouldn't hate it. But at the same time, I feel like the best place would be 2.
So
you
when
get
this-
one warning, the
when
next time
local
go
ref
fuck yourself.
is not even warning for repeated stoppages in action, due to
And
that,
not letting Poatan have time to recover.
what is happening in his mind? Like
He had to fight 2 opponents that night.
I mean, do you think it was right when Anik and DC did not hold back? They were dunking on that guy during
Which
the
they
fight.
should have. Yeah, they
You
were
think
right.
that was
I think it was very justified. I mean, listen, sometimes they can like dogpile somebody who I don't think deserves it as much. And so maybe you can say, should they be dogpiling anybody? That's a
like
question.
maybe somebody should jump in and be like, I'm sure Keith Peterson doesn't smell like cold cuts and hooch. Like at least one of the two, right?
But what I was going to say was this was such an egregious case. It deserved it. Like he was terrible. He should never ref a UFC fight anytime soon.
Well, we're going to have another question here from World's Worst Hero, who wants to know what was your letter grade A through F for UFC 307 before Saturday and what is it after? So as a pay-per-view card on paper, is C minus?
C minus.
Luke, Long Island Luke, C minus on paper.
See, I actually thought it was decent on paper. I'll give it a B on paper, but I'm giving it a C in execution.
Dude, what the fuck grade were you giving the co-main pre-fight?
I mean, dude, I've just been, like you guys said, I'm used to these shitty cards now where I'm like, oh, I know all these names. They
Tune
all
into
have
the main
Wikipedia
card
pages.
minute.
you
Hey,
know?
Saul showed up on the main card minute.
Yeah, shout out Saul.
Did he really?
Yeah, hell yeah. Gave me a dono, too.
That's young guy speak for a hand job. Yeah, that's what it is.
Like he blew you?
Yeah,
That's
yeah, he walked you to your truck. Luke, would you
all the skits and bits
post-
today. There's been like
I'm
50
I'm
of those.
very minimal these days on the old skits and bits. Luke, but post for a card. Look, short of the main event, it sucked, right? Short of the main event, and then the main event was
Well, the Kevin Holland fight's not his fault.
right. I'm not
his
saying it's
fault.
people's fault. I'm
Yeah.
saying how it played out. Buckley fight was a good early moment, but
The Aldo fight sucked. The Buckley fight sucked. And then what was?
I don't
Sorry,
know if
no.
Aldo
What am I saying?
sucked.
The
first
Aldo
two
fight
rounds were
sucked.
Interesting.
The Aldo fight sucked. The Kevin Holland fight sucked because of the injury. And then what was the opener on that card? Oh, the Kayla
Kayla.
Harrison fight also sucked.
Kind of sucked.
Yeah, I gave that fight. I thought maybe C plus on paper, and ended up being like a C in reality because the main event was great. It was really good, and then everything else was kind of just either like standard or bad.
We have a
Yeah.
question from so I'll give it a C minus on the way out too. Okay, take
Yeah.
that, Luke. Take
Yeah,
that.
there
Rewind
you
it
go.
back. Okay. From at Nate the Great Lux, the community rightfully keeps making the claims that Poatan saves fight cards. Aside from John Jones and Conor McGregor, who else would you say is one of the best card savers for the UFC? Who has that reputation? as a
Cerrone
card
did a
saver?
lot of that. I feel
Very
like
true. Very
Cerrone did a
true.
lot. Like a consistent card
Chris
saver.
Lieben was a card saver at one point.
He did 2 fights back to back in 2 different weeks. Yep. Mm-hmm. But like, who was like a consistent card saver? I don't know who that
which
is.
star? Volkanovski is always ready to weigh in as a backup and always ready to.
But this thing about card saving, I mean, obviously it has happened throughout the course of the UFC, but it's more common now, right? Where they go to people last minute and like, Dan Ige's in there with like 4 hours notice.
Mm-hmm.
That's a relatively new thing in terms of how much you see it. So like, it's a little bit harder to compare eras because they just didn't do this like this before.
I still have a lot of respect to give to Anderson Silva for UFC 200. I know the fight with DC didn't end up being awesome. Short
hurt
of
him.
that stomach kick with the toes in the third,
Yeah,
but
he hurt
like
him.
the balls on that man, not in shape to just get on the plane.
Yeah.
Like
Also, it's weird
DC?
to call John Jones a card saver. I mean,
He could have saved 251.
I don't like.
No,
I,
what am I thinking? What's the card?
152, whatever it was.
152, yes.
I don't blame him for not saving the card, but like, it's just weird to be like, wow, he saves cards. Like, no, the fuck he doesn't. Connor's the best example because
Nobody saves cards.
that run he was on before he became champion, where he was like completely fucked up half the time. It's reminiscent of what Poatan is doing now.
Very true, in that same type of feel. We have one more, I believe, Long Island Luke. I haven't pre-read it. It's from at Elvis F. Flexley. Elvis Flexley. Who is the best fighter turned actor?
Now, are we talking pornography or?
Oh wow, we're talking traditional because
Because I haven't watched enough OnlyFans pornography to really judge.
Because on the wrestling side, despite Dwayne The Rock Johnson's consistent box office success, Dave Bautista's a better actor.
Is it Dave Bautista's a much better actor?
Yeah, so
by the
who-
way, Dave Bautista, Washington D.C. guy. Don't think he's not.
Is he?
100%. I one time saw him downtown in Chinatown crossing the street, and this was before Guardians of the Galaxy. So this is some years ago. And
He was great in Dune 1 and 2.
I didn't know I was like, why is Bautista in fucking DC? And then I looked it up. Sure
Yeah.
enough, he's from the area.
You should get him on your thing.
He was on MMA Uncensored Live one time with us. Yeah, he was a nice guy.
All right, so who in the fight game now? Because what's the history here? You have Connor and Roadhouse. You've got Valentina in that Halle Berry MMA movie. You've got a lot of like B-level shit, like Touchy Feely was in Mr. Faber's Weed Thriller that you were also in.
That I got paid nothing for.
Yeah, I've seen Donald Cerrone in a lot of like very fourth-rate, straight-to-DVD action movies.
How about Tito's movie, Operation Black Ops,
Yes.
which literally stands for Operation Black Operations.
So
like whoever fucking named that movie is the dumbest
who's the best
motherfucker that ever
actor
lived.
right now? Are we forgetting a Ray
How about
Allen?
Randy Couture? He was in all of the Expendables.
It's Randy Couture, isn't it? Long Island, right?
We're leaving out Bisping too. He was in like.
Oh, he was in Gang of
he actually had a
Thieves
legitimate
or
role
whatever
in
the fuck it's
Triple
called.
X. You're right. I watched that on a plane. He actually had a legitimate speaking role.
Oh, and Kamaru Usman was in Black Panther.
That's right, dude. This was
Usman was
how
in Black
good-
Panther,
Can we
yes.
say something publicly?
Yeah.
How good? I mean, he's an absolute dirtbag, but how good is Long Island Luke for this show?
I'd say for being high half the time, he does a decent job.
Thank you very much. Big part of this family.
Speaking of which, I
here.
need to charge my weed vape before we leave here.
Speaking of, look, that'll wrap up our DMs from Donks for the day, for the week. But
Hold on, who's the best professional wrestler turned actor?
Dave Bautista. We just talked about that. You know, he's
He's-
better than Hogan, better than Cena.
Well, I mean, Hogan.
Cena's better than he should be, to be fair. Cena's
I actually was
pretty
going to say,
good.
I think Cena might be the best pure actor.
Yes.
Did you see? What's the show he did?
No, he's not the best.
The Peacemaker.
Batista's the best actor. Come on.
Have you seen The Peacemaker?
I have not seen the Peacemaker.
Dude, John Cena. Okay, I'll say this: John Cena is a better comedy actor. Now, Bautista is a good comedy actor in Guardians of the Galaxy. He's very good as like Drax. That's his character's name. But like John Cena in The Peacemaker, I was like, I couldn't believe how good that. You know, my wife was also like, "Who is this guy?" I'm like, "He's a professional wrestler."
Have you ever watched, like, WWE has a whole movie studio of those like straight to DVD action movies involving like The Miz and Randy Orton and shit? You don't get into that?
I'd rather get fucked to death by an 8-dicked walrus.
Okay, that's aggressive. That's that. Now let's close with this segment every Monday, right? I mean, some people would say it's the best segment going in martial arts shows, you know, right? Crowned or not, right? There you go. Hey, the uncrowned's coming, Luke. They're coming. They're coming soon.
Who's coming?
This uncrowned movement. Team Helwani in the back room.
Oh! You mean they're?
I think they're launching soon, so good for them.
Good for them, yeah.
What I do though every Sunday is I go through my shit and find the kernels in there for you, right? Viral videos, the good, the bad, the
The
ugly.
good news is they're not super self-congratulatory. You know what I mean? They really restrain it.
They are very restraining on that. The highs, the lows, all that BS in between. Hey, this is called Have You Seen This? Ish.
Hold on. Now, before you do this, Long Island Luke, you have seen this batch, have you not?
I have not actually.
No,
I
he
went through
purposely
it.
doesn't watch.
Yeah, I like to be surprised with you in the moment.
He gets such a kick out of your reactions. He told me that like he stays virgin for
Okay, what am I in for here?
some shit. Let's go with UFC 307 in Salt Lake City. Luke, if Team Poatan's breaking out this dance before the fights, you're gonna get knocked out and you're gonna lose. Okay. I mean, dude, how good is his personality? Seriously, the character he portrays in MMA. I mean, we can get caught up in the Guru versus Nino rivalry and waste a lot of that hours and time, but this guy's the best personality in MMA.
Which is weird because he doesn't have super like in your face personality at all.
He has like opposite charisma. He picks his spots. He's hilarious.
Shama.
Look at this dance. Look at this stuff.
He is happy at all the right times. He is focused at all the right. He just seems to know what the moment is and then rides it perfectly. You know.
Luke, I don't want to be the person on this show that the pot that calls the kettle high, but let's go to this Conor McGregor tweet that was deleted after Kevin Holland was unable to continue with what we think was a broken rib.
You got to be shitting
Conor goes,
me.
didn't even fucking try. Nah, that is ridiculous. Go out again and see how it is. If it folds up again, then you end it with the towel. Nah, that's not it for me, folks. Holland is a solid veteran. He well should have went out and gave it a shot and see how he was. Wrong move. This is the same McGregor who pulled out of International Fight Week in June with a broken toe.
Yeah, I mean, you got to be fucking kidding me. Chutzpah. You know how chutzpah is defined?
No, I don't.
It's defined as a child killing their parents and then begging for mercy because they're an orphan.
That got dark, Luke.
That's chutzpah.
Okay, a lot of chutzpah on that guy right there. Let's go to Dana responding to the report of doctors finding that power slap is about 90% in causing brain injuries or something like that.
It's I think 80, but yeah.
There was also a power slap study that came out by a medical journal. Doctors watched the first episode of Power Slap and determined from just watching the first episode that there was concussions happening.
Sounds legit.
Yeah, I'm wondering what kind of...
They watched one episode of the show, know nothing about medicals or what we do or any of the studies we've done. Sounds like these typical doctors that look for attention to me.
That's what I thought.
Yep. Thank you.
There you have it, Luke.
What studies have they done? What studies have they done?
I don't.
Am I not aware of something that
I
they've
just
done?
wish they would take all those resources and put it into Zuffa boxing and let's go full speed ahead. Okay.
It's like these doctors and their agenda trying to protect your brain.
This slap thing is a dead end road. Let's just close shop up.
I'm
Please.
going to say it one more time. Nobody actually likes power slap. Dana likes it because he thinks he can probably make money from it, and the people who commentate it and whatnot, they do it because they're trying to actually advance their UFC careers. And this is
You're talking about the count.
well, he's not Dan Helly, who I like a lot, does it too. I mean,
Hey,
Dan's the man. Shouts to
Dan
Dan.
Helly's in our next clip.
Okay, but they don't do it because they think power slap's awesome. They do it because they have to climb the corporate ladder.
Right. Helly, also the voice of DWCS. He does a great job.
Also, Dan Helly, DC guy.
Wow, big weekend for
There you
DC
go.
here. Here's Dan Helly on the weigh-in show, Luke. I'm not going to show the clip of Chris Weidman explaining how on his first date he shit in his girlfriend's garbage can because she was showering and then made a big mess.
I find that the less I learn about the lives of fighters, the more I enjoy the sport.
Not going to play that clip, but let's play this clip in reaction to the new name of the Utah professional hockey team.
What's your team name? Please tell me it's better than Elk.
No, I feel like it's pretty good. I didn't go far for inspiration. I was in the space I was in, and I looked around me, and I felt the moment, and I said, the Utah Apex.
The Utah Apex.
Where I have been living for the
I
last
can see
9
it now.
weeks. No, but like
Apex.
it's like a
Apex.
mountain. It's like the top. You were the apex.
Are they gonna play in front of
Wouldn't it be the
500
summit?
people at most?
Are you shooting on the UFC Apex right now?
And so when you
Wait,
make
what
it
did he say?
before,
I'm sorry, I talked over it like an
Yeah.
asshole.
It's like the top. You were the apex.
Are they gonna play in
It's-
front of 500 people at most?
Are you shooting on the UFC Apex?
Dude, Dan Helly's awesome.
So
Shouts to
Senko
Dan
was
Helly.
actually like, "Are you going to shit on the Apex on the air?" Well done, Dan Helly. I
Dan Helly's
appreciated
the
that.
man.
Tip of the cap. Let's keep it going here. Where are we at here? It's time for MMA fighters in the wild, Luke. You know I get fired up to see what if they are like
Is
one
this
of
a
us.
Jan 6 highlight?
What if they're like one of us, Luke? Let's go to the highlight. Justin Gaethje.
Wow.
Look at that bong, Luke. That's about to blast off, right?
Bro, he's about to get booted and zooted up in
Woo,
this.
Zoot Suit Riot. Throw back an ounce of wow.
Okay, you don't have to have all the weed, Justin. You can share some with the rest of planet Earth.
I really like Justin Gaethje. Like I wouldn't go with him to Kadyrov's son's party, but I like him outside.
Yeah, I would also skip that party.
All right. Also in the wild is Merab going back to Georgia, Luke, your home state. Only this is the country in Asia, and you know I get fired up for homecomings. First of all, I love Merab. Second of all, look at the humanity around him as this little man celebrates.
And by the way, back in Utah for the fights.
Yeah, he's everywhere.
Merab is at all the fights.
Yes, I think he's on like a full-time travel salary like Nina Drama. Just go everywhere, right?
A lot of Nina comments today.
Well, it's a big weekend for her on the socials there.
I mercifully missed every bit of it.
Good for you. Good for you. I hope I missed the future of that. Shout out to Merab. Merab's name, though, not easy for everyone to say, as we found out from Teddy Atlas's podcast.
You know, O'Malley got set back with Mamadov. Great fight by Mamadov. Tremendous.
So wait a second. Did Sean O'Malley fight Islam Mamadov?
Yes, exactly. Islam Makhachev. That is, wait, who are we talking about? Oh, Merab Dvalishvili, that guy.
Isn't it? Hold on, I'll say. But in fairness, isn't it Dvalishvili?
Yes, it is.
Okay.
All right. Let's go over to your hat of the week, Luke. I don't know who your parents voted for in the 60s, but I wonder if it was that ticket, Luke. Remember what it was called? Eaton Bush.
69. This guy, I guarantee you, is the worst first date in the country.
Yes, definitely. Big week for Dana White Contender Series, Luke. Here is Luke. You know about the Torres Finney story?
Yeah, third time's a try for Contender Series.
Third
yeah?
time turned out to be the try as Dana finally liked what he saw. Could smell what Torres is cooking.
First team all titties.
Yes,
on Torres
him and
Finney.
Big E. Shout out to those
First team.
chesticles right there. Dana also had a Peter Brady moment during the show.
So, what can't you do, kid? I'm excited to find out. Welcome to the UFC.
Jacoby Smith.
When it's time to
Guys, you're welcome to the UFC.
Luke, almost time for Halloween, but I've already found my costume for 24. I'm a genie in a bottle, baby.
Do you okay, now that your kids are in high school and nothing's cool anymore?
Yes.
What do you guys do on Halloween?
I work the door. The kids go wherever they go. Barely anybody comes to our door, and it's kind of
Okay, so I live.
My wife keeps the dogs from mauling them.
I live in a place where I get absolutely avalanches of children.
Oh boy!
And I'm in the thick of it because Tukster is going as Princess Peach this
You
year.
should work out shirtless in your front yard during that.
I just might. And she's going as Princess Peach. I told her I wanted to go as Chewbacca. She didn't like that idea.
Why? Chewbacca's loyal as shit.
Chewbacca's scary to her.
No,
yes.
watch like prequels.
We saw a
and-
7-footer. We went to one of those Comic Cons that came through the city. It's not like the real one. They call it Awesome Con. And there was a guy like in a full size Chewbacca costume. It was like well over 7 feet. And I said to Tukster, I was like, Tukster, it's Chewbacca. And then she screamed and cried.
Oh wow!
Because he was so big. Yeah, and he was like, all that shit.
The only follow up I could come up with is what's her favorite expired food?
I don't know.
All right.
Popcorn.
Luke, I've got your T-shirt of the week right here. If you're looking to get a double XL.
I'm fat because every time I fuck your dad, he pours bacon grease down my throat. Well, that's a completely, that's just a heinous bitch. I mean, what are you?
I don't know how we transition out of that. But this week in boxing, Luke, Nick Ball successfully defended his featherweight title by knocking veteran Ronnie Rios through the ropes.
Dude, look at these uppercuts. Jesus.
Nick Ball's a little pocket rocket, Luke. Look at him.
He's got some balls.
Yeah, take that.
Oh.
Get out of here.
Get the fuck up out my ring, ho.
And Luke, you know the only name at middleweight at the moment is Janibek. I always butcher his last name. Almkanuli?
Yeah, I don't know how to say it either, but he's a beast.
Dude, he beat the bags off of Andre Mihailovic and did this little like spin around while stalking him to defend his middleweight titles. I think only one of his 2 belts were on the line due to shenanigans.
Yeah, dude, he is just fucking styling on this guy.
Dead division, but you love to see this Kazakh Thunder right here. Yeah.
You know what? If you're one of those guys in a dead division, I like what he did, where he fought like on Thursday or Friday, whatever it was, where there's no competition on Saturday
Friday
night.
Morning,
do it that shit. Do it
I like
that way.
Let's go to one championship. The aforementioned John Lineker throws bombs, and he threw bombs again against Balco here.
Dude, just look. There's nothing technical about his punching. It's just wide as shit, but it's so heavy.
Oh yeah, and I love that he keeps the like hair around his head so you can see the bald spot. He's just a badass old guy.
Dude, he just throws absolute grenades.
Luke, let's look at the weather plans for the week. Let's see if they coincide with your recreational plans.
Dude, I don't need that to be my weekend plans. That's going to be my plans in about 30 minutes.
Yeah, that's my life plan. Thank you very much. Let's go to driveway basketball. You ever imitate your heroes through the years on the
yeah, of course.
Like here's Larry Bird, here's Dominique. Let's watch this.
Dikembe, rest in peace.
Yeah.
Larry Bird. Jordan.
They hit the second tower.
Very relatable video there, Luke. We've all been through that. Wow. Okay.
Again, I didn't know 9/11 humor was a thing until I met you.
There we go. Time for a dance break, Luke. You ever go over to somebody's house for a outdoor barbecue and they're line dancing? And
yes, I've been to my in-laws' place before.
Okay, but did this ever happen at your in-laws' place, Luke? No, we're staying in
They're
line.
just, everyone's just having a moment. Everyone's okay, all right.
Yep, and
oh shit!
Raise the roof, reversed. Wow, that is something right there. Yeah, okay. Luke, John Anik got into a fist fight with his twin brother on their podcast. Let's watch this.
And to start. So Scott Hastings asks, who's the first to throw a jab in a squabble, John or Jay? Is that your answer? I mean, Scott, I love you, Scott, but I mean, that's on you a little bit, Scotty.
Is that what you?
Can I just be honest? John Anik's brother sounds like John Anik after inhaling a helium balloon.
Pretty much.
Right?
Are you and your brother still like that today?
No. I think if I touched him, he'd have a meltdown.
Oh, you don't like double leg him just to prove
you think I'm salty and ornery? I mean, you don't.
Yeah.
I'm like, dude, I'm fucking happy-go-lucky compared to the other men in my family.
Check out this high school football referee, Luke. So if you can be discreet, you can do whatever you want out here.
Oh yeah.
You know what I mean?
What, dude? What the fuck is that?
I mean, there's kids around there, sir. I mean, come on. There you go. Hey, Luke. We haven't played in a while.
High school football in the South is different.
Oh, it is different. We haven't played rate that tat.
Well,
Can I get a score 1 to 10 on these?
All right, let's see.
A lot of horror on that back.
Again, I wouldn't really want it, but if we're just talking about tattoo quality,
yes.
The 8.
Okay, the number to beat here is 8. Let's see who can top it. Let's keep it going. A lot of Ariel Helwani fans out there, Luke. This man got the uncrowned logo tatted.
Okay, that's
on
just a 0. I mean, be serious.
All right. You ever hear of Power Rangers, Luke?
Yeah, of course.
What about Powder Rangers?
Give it a solid 6.
Okay, there you go. And I got a phone-related tat here. I don't even remember what this looks like. Oh, there you go, Luke. That's exactly what he was looking for, that picture right there.
That's a 2.
Yes, and you know I like glizzies. But first, let's check out these mini glizzies here. Luke, what do you think about this tat?
Okay. Is that even legal to show? Is that even legal to show?
Speaking of the double glizzies, I would consider this tat. Look, artistically, what are you going to rate this? Not that bad, right?
So as a tattoo, that's a well-done tattoo.
Yes.
But as a art concept, it's a negative 8 billion.
I think we got one more for you. Oh, popcorn related. Yes.
Okay, once again, as a tattoo, that's a well-done tattoo.
All right.
But that's disturbing. I give that a 4.
All right, let's see some milk here. Got a bag of milk.
Dude, what the fuck you doing that to Grandpa
Yeah,
for? What
well,
the
you
fuck?
do like elder abuse, Luke, and that was very abusive there.
Look at this poor bastard.
Luke, you ever, Barbara's ever get the cone of shame after a,
Oh,
after
yeah.
a setback?
Oh, yeah.
How about you? You ever get it?
I don't lick my balls, so no.
I think it's about time we put the cone of shame where it belongs on you, Luke, on the road. You know what I'm saying? Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
That one got me. That was good. I
Luke,
didn't
you
expect
do
that.
enjoy in this segment when white people get hurt, right?
Always.
Hey everybody, Haley back again. We are now on the river, but I'm gonna go off the river and see what everybody around the shop is up to. Let's go check it out.
Oh! Sorry, Haley.
No! Have a drink, bitch.
We got one more for you. Remember, I told you I was forklift certified back in 2005. Okay.
Does that mean you dated fat girls?
Oh,
shit! Oh my god!
Yeah, that's your KO of the week, Luke.
Dude, you like our next video is just some bitch getting decapitated.
Fatality.
Like what?
There's your shit. I hope you enjoyed it. Wow, we came in under 2 hours. I didn't think we'd land this plane.
Yeah, you rushed through the topics.
Yeah.
How was your weekend? What did you do?
I
Besides watch the fights.
went for a bunch of walks and hikes. I'm becoming that old person that realizes if I walk 4 to 5 miles a day with my wife and dogs, then I'll improve the quality of my life.
4 to 5 is a lot of miles. You don't really need to walk that much.
That's what I'm doing. Okay, that's what I did with my weekend. Got a little takeout, a little Thai food.
Ooh, you got Thai food?
Yeah, and watch the fights. I'm a big pad Thai guy. I'm basic shit.
Yeah.
What about yourself, Luke? Did you take Tukes to the splash pad?
No, it's too cold for that. But we did Halloween. We decorated the house with on the outside.
So what type of if you're doing giant spiders, you're a weirdo.
We put spider webs on the front fence, and then these little spiders that just kind of attach to it wherever you want. And
But
then
spiders are awful, Luke.
well, it's Halloween. I mean, ghosts are awful.
You could put pumpkins or
We put 2 skulls that glow in the dark on the front steps. We did some witches hanging up and some ghosts and attached stuff to the bird feeder. I'm a bird guy. I've become this is how
like real nerdy with like the book where you.
I have a book. I don't really use it. I just kind of sit in my yard and watch birds. But yeah,
You are full of unpredictable turns. Not just your love of like abortion death rock, which is just wild.
Yeah.
You're a bird guy.
I have turned into a bird guy. I have absolutely turned into a bird guy. A cardinal. I was sitting in the front yard and a cardinal landed in the bird feeder, which is like for me to like this camera, and it was the happiest I was all day watching this cardinal eat at the bird feeder. Yeah, I'm pathetic, but I know that about myself and I accept it.
Okay. I wanted to remind the great people that this morning Combat Train will have another stop on the tour this week, and that is of course, Friday, 11 a.m. Eastern time.
Hey, where's the horn, fuckface? There we go.
On the At Morning Combat YouTube channel. We will be back from home. This is the beginning every Monday here in Studio Meadowlark in Manhattan every
Now
Friday.
let's remind folks, we can be reached at morningcombat@gmail.com. That email address is active. there's been some questions that I've gotten from the fans being like,
Sure.
hey, are you going to bring back some of the old features for Friday's show?
So fan subs is a very polarizing
I'm so glad you
segment.
brought that up. People don't really want fan subs that much.
I still argue, and I do to you over text, that I think fan subs is the greatest connection to community, and I'm proud of the community we built with this show. You have to deal with weird people in tight t-shirts to show that their love for the show. Yes, but we get artwork, we get skits and bits, we get love and hope and community.
Why can't we keep that segment? But
It doesn't have to be weekly if we don't have the content.
That's what I'm thinking. It's more like monthly.
How about bi-weekly?
That's a lot. What do you think, Long
How
Island
about
Luke?
it'll be dictated by the content level?
I was just going to say what BC just said. Depending on how much we get and the quality of it, we'll just do it as often as we have a good batch.
What do you have a favorite segment?
Have you seen this shit? I mean,
okay, well, he's barely here. All right.
Okay, bet is also like up there because
Okay, well, you are
exactly.
you're gonna trade away your mortgage for a parlay.
Joke's on you. You think I have a mortgage?
He drives like an 89 Citation, right? Yeah.
Was that what you drive?
2010. We talked about this last
yeah,
week.
we talked about that already.
Hey,
There
I
we
got a
go.
2015. I've barely got any miles on the fucking thing.
Yeah.
My wife wants a new car, but I don't know what the point is. I'm like, why? Cars are expensive, and this thing has 42,000 miles, and it's 2015.
Tell her.
Huh?
Stand on
I
your
did.
business.
I did.
King of the castle.
We paid it off. I did my mortgage. 5 months left.
All right, I
5
applaud
months
that.
left
I
on my
applaud
mortgage.
That. That's well done. That is a feeling that. Look, I'm in life for you to have nice feelings that make you feel happy. Apparently, birds provide that.
Yeah, so that doesn't mean this.
Yeah,
that doesn't mean that. But birds, bro. I went to the aviary in Colombia, the National Aviary of Colombia. It blew me away.
I guess there's worse things. You could become like an opera guy. I'd make fun of you, or like if you became.
Yeah, I'm not an opera guy. No, or a dance guy. I'm not a dance guy. I can't.
I just want to dance, you know.
No, I want to look at birds.
All right, that's weird. Well, I guess that's our show. If you want to wear this great merch that we've got going on, please head on over to morningcombat.store. And if you want even 10% off the price, use our code LIVE10, LIVE10. I don't even know who's working the store anymore, but somebody will send it to
In theory, it's still operational.
Yes, in theory. But changes are coming. Things are happening. You would argue. You would go as far as arguing that things are happening behind the scenes.
Again, my rule has been there's nothing to say until there's actually something to say. And
You're like, don't show me the baby. Don't tell me about the birthing
There's
pains.
movement.
Show me the head, right?
There's movement.
You're
yeah.
a big head guy.
Depends who's giving it. Depends who's giving it, but yes, in general, I find it preferable.
All right. Well, that is the show for this week. I'm sure they can check us out this week on our own solo channels at Luke Thomas, right?
YouTube.com/Luke Thomas. YouTube.com/ is it the Brian Campbell?
I think it is.
The Brian Campbell Experience.
Yeah, it is. It is. So
Did you make it longer? It's not long enough.
Yeah,
You
it
need a
should
few
probably
more
be
letters.
longer and less original. That'd probably be better. So, but that's what we do here. Shout out to Long Island Luke Nocita. Is government name okay with
Thank you for putting that out there.
Yeah, thank you. People get mad at me. People get sore at me. Manich is big on that. Don't be telling the people my real name. No?
It's a good idea not to, yeah.
All right. Well, that's all we got for this week. Thank you so much for tuning in and watching it. We'll be back on Friday. Check us out on our solo tubes there. If you want to join my Only Pipes Club, I'm still figuring it out. But, one of these days, right? One of these days, finally, you guys will get your chance to check that out and see what I got going on down here.
All right, my ass itches. We need to
that's
go.
weird. All right. For Luke Thomas, I'm BC. Take care of your head, okay? You got this. You're going to get through this. We love you, and we're out of here.